the last couple of mornings.
5 and 7, too. I just got off the phone with Frank Kishton, who is the federal coordinating officer for the fires in Los Angeles, the disaster that was handling all the wildfires. And they're setting up a regional operating center, which is a joint center with the state and federal government, FEMA.
The reports to us of the quake, something like, I guess, about 40 minutes ago, Bernie.
Indeed, Bob, and as you were talking to Michael and to Leon, there was another aftershock. I want to report to you one of the strangest scenes one can ever see. 5 o'clock in the morning, or whatever time it is right now, in front of Tiffany's in Beverly Hills. Tiffany's is less than 70 yards from my hotel. There are people walking around in white terry cloth robes, obviously fellow residents of this hotel. And on the median strip going down the center of Wilshire Boulevard, you can see people cloaked in white and pajamas and what have you, and they're not about to come back inside this hotel. They're just strolling along the median strip, and they're just standing and looking, and there goes a woman across the street in her terry cloth robe up to Tiffany's.
Just San Fernando Road. We've also gotten some reports that that there are some structure fires in the Newhall Saugus area, and that's all we have right now, according to what people are reporting on amateur radio. Fortunately, right now, nobody seems to be requiring any assistance via the radio, but it does seem to be widely felt over a wide area of the area here.
Bob, you were on the amateur radio, which is interesting, as soon as the earthquake happened. Is this something that you typically would do to try to find out exactly what's going on, and what were the other people, besides the damage reports, what were the other people on the line saying?
Well, of course, they were giving immediate responses to the earthquake as far as how it was felt, and we try to get a general idea of what the size or the magnitude is of the quake. That's the preliminary reports, and then we'd come in with anybody, of course, anybody needing any help. Normally, I'm there working at KNBC in the master control room, but fortunately I was off tonight, but certainly felt it out here. I also want to say to Steve Crow, our cameraman there, that I have not been able to get a hold of his wife in the Newhall area, been trying, and also to Jim Hart there, his wife is okay out in Palmdale. Out here in the Antelope Valley seems to be okay. But radio-wise, people do seem to be just reporting damage, and nobody seems to really need any emergency help right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Bob from Lancaster. We're going to go right now to Terry Frost, who is one of our resident seismologists here at KNBC, amateur seismologist, and you frequently call in some of these earthquakes that happen around here. Terry, what can you tell us about this from your experience?
Well, it obviously was a fairly large quake. I would estimate somewhere between 6 and 7. And I did get an azimuth on it, or a direction, from my location out here in Rancho Cucamonga. And it's about 265 to 270 degrees, which would put it almost due west to me. And if I have a mileage correct, which is very preliminary right now, is about 62 miles. And
they're in the San Fernando Valley. Most of the damage, we would assume, being in the valley. And we're hoping, we don't know yet because we're just getting reports in, we're hoping that the damage is of the type that I was reporting at in the Glendale area where I live, and that is that just bookshelves came down and ceramic items came down off the shelves and may have broken, but there's no structural damage. But we don't know yet. Odds are there's probably more substantial damage the closer you get to the epicenter, and in other areas where the soil is particularly loose and structures are built on them. Just looking through some of the reports that we're getting, most of these by telephone, as people get up this morning and try to figure out exactly what happened in their areas. As we said, that there are fires burning in the San Fernando Valley, 5 fires so far, probably caused by broken gas mains that then...
About the earthquakes that you have been describing as the Santa Monica Swarm, is it possible then that those earthquakes we felt last week, when there was almost one a day that was actually able to be felt, is it possible that those were foreshocks to what we felt this morning?
that is a possibility. I'm not going to go that far to speculate on that. Like I said, the thing that caught my mind first was the fact that when I did get a direction on this, it pointed in that direction, and the mileage was about right. However, I could be off quite a bit, but I'm almost fairly certain that the quake is in LA County, in your area, and close to the ocean.
Okay, Terry Frost, thanks very much. As the morning goes on, in fact, indeed, in about the next half hour or so, we should be able to find a preliminary epicenter, a starting point for this morning's earthquake. As soon as we get that information, we will pass it on to you. Right now, the best we know is that this was an earthquake that came through about 4:31 this morning, lasted about 30 seconds in the strongest hit areas, and preliminarily may have measured 6.5 on the Richter scale.
Okay, right now we're going to go upstairs to the newsroom to Colleen Williams and Chuck Henry, and they're going to tell us a little bit about what to do during these aftershocks. And you may be feeling some, you know, during the next couple of hours. There are bound to be many. Colleen, Chuck, good morning.
Okay, thanks, Carla and Ken. If you're joining us now, you can see on the screen here what to do after an aftershock. If you're inside your house, stay there right now. Get under something sturdy. Certainly don't do what I did this morning. That was to jump out of bed immediately and run in to see what's going on in the house. Stay away from items that can fall off the shelves or break. Specifically televisions. A lot of people have televisions up high these days, and I know we lost a lot of monitors here in the newsroom.
The other thing people are worried about is, of course, gas and gas explosions.
7. Could you tell us once again, what community are you in? I know you're in the San Fernando Valley.
I am in the community of Sylmar, where the earthquake took place in 1971. Our home is located within 1/2 mile of the 210 freeway and the I-5 freeway, where they come together before they go over Newhall Pass into Valencia and Saugus.
Tom, have the fighting equipment, have the fire engines been able to get through? We've heard that there are a number of landslides in the quake area. So those houses that are burning, are they just burning without any help from firefighters, or did I miss something you had said earlier?
No, you have not missed anything I said earlier.
Can perhaps not see more damage, more visible damage.
We're going to break here for a second, Bernie, and go to John Lynch. He is with the National Earthquake Center in Golden, Colorado. Mr. Lynch, I think you can give us some official information on exactly how strong the quake was. Do you have an epicenter yet?
Yes, we have a location 20 miles southwest of San Fernando, California. Occurred at 4:31 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and a magnitude of 6.6.
How do you describe a magnitude 6.6 earthquake? What is it capable of?
That's capable of causing damage in a populated region. We're just getting some preliminary damage reports. It's very sketchy at this time.
Do you consider that a strong quake, a very strong quake, or what?
That is a strong quake, yes.
Is there anything more you can add for us?
Not at this time. That's the preliminary information we have.
Misinformation. Coming into work this morning, I stopped by Caltech. Students are down there. They're looking at the seismographs. I mean, obviously, the picture down there is quite dramatic. They're still trying to determine exactly where the epicenter of this quake is. It was a strong one. Once again, the folks down at Caltech told me it was 6.5 or greater.
We do have some preliminary information on that. We have been in contact with the National Earthquake Center in Golden, Colorado, and they put this one, as you said, at about 6.5 to a 6.7, and they believe right now the epicenter was somewhere near the town of San Fernando.
Right, which would coincide with the kind of phone calls that we're getting in here. The people that live along the beach communities, the South Beach communities, aren't reporting as violent a jolt as those that live in the San Fernando Valley area, out in the San Gabriel Valley area. Exactly what fault it was on, we do not know yet. It lasted a good 30 seconds with a lot of small aftershocks.
I don't know about you, but I felt a real strong jolt for about 15 seconds as I jumped out of bed to see what the baby was doing. I have an infant just down in one of the other rooms. I fell as I got out of bed.
Did you?
And that was about 15, 20 seconds. It stopped, and then it started again. But it was a strong jolt, unlike any I've ever felt.
Once again, the key is to remain calm. If there's any information at all, we'll have it here. We're going to pass it on to you. I guess the best thing to do is just stay by your television or radio.
Let me tell you, Joe Rico was a big comfort this morning when I turned him on. Immediately after the earthquake hit, he was one of the only people on the air in the Los Angeles area, so he was able to give us some information. You knew you're not out there by yourself.
And we do have crews going, like I said, fanning out all over the area, and as soon as we get live pictures, we'll be bringing those to you. But right now, it's just mainly reports of what people felt, and of course, the cautions about gas and water and electricity. and those kinds of things.
We're getting a lot of phone calls into the newsroom here, and Chuck and I will stay on the community desk here and get back to you in just a few minutes. Kent and Carla, back to you in the studio.
All right, Chuck and Colleen, thanks very much for that. We appreciate it. Again, you're looking right now at a live picture. The Earth has not settled down just yet. This is our Channel 4 Seismocam. It is showing us a picture of what's going on during this morning's earthquake. This exact videotape taken at 4:39 this morning when the main thrust of this morning's earthquake hit. Again, preliminarily, we're hearing 6.5 to 6.7 on the Richter scale, perhaps centered somewhere in the San Fernando Valley, an area of about 3 million people just to the north of the Los Angeles basin.
Time right now is 5:21, and we're not going to have daylight for at least another hour and a half, a little bit longer. And the one thing that I want to remind some of our viewers out there are a lot of folks that don't have any power. And the thing to remember is use a flashlight. Do not use any candles. One of the hazards that you might find during the earthquakes is that there's gas leaks, and if you light any candles there, you know, it might prompt some type of an explosion. You can see right there that there's a lot of power out. Usually at this time of the morning, there are lights twinkling all over the place. This is our live picture from Mount Wilson.
Carla, this is a picture that regular viewers of our morning news programming on Channel 4 are used to seeing. About 5:30 each morning when we crank up Today in L.A., we show this picture, but there are usually twice as many lights as you're seeing right here. And you can see wide areas of the Los Angeles basin and of the San Gabriel Valley that are going without electricity this morning. Now, this picture from atop Mount Wilson, about a mile up in the sky to the north of the area, shooting the picture south, shows that there is just not as much activity in terms of electricity as there usually is at a time like this. It's something we'll be watching throughout the morning, and we have been reporting these power outages. And very briefly, there has been extensive damage reported already, perhaps one of the worst cases so far that we are continuing to investigate right now. The report, emphasized report, of damage on the Santa Monica Freeway closed at Fairfax, with perhaps some cars damaged there. We'll stay on top of that one.
Okay, let's hear what some people have felt during the morning hours. We're going to talk to Marty Ryan. Marty, can you tell us where you were at? He's a pretty...
Off the walls. It was impossible to even try to stand up and walk around. So it was really, really tough. And we could kind of see from our bedroom, well, perhaps several hundred homes, and there's absolutely no power on out here, and people are walking around the streets a little bit. I don't think anybody was hurt, and no major damage, but it was a violent shake, no doubt about it.
Okay, we're showing you pictures from the KMBC newsroom. This is not Marty Ryan's house. What about the neighborhood? Yes. What about the neighborhood? Did you have people coming outdoors to check on one another? I know that happened in my neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely. There were some people. There's a street above us and a street below us, and we could see flashlights and a couple occasions of cars that were outside already, you know, with headlights going on, and people talking to each other a little bit, and we felt all the aftershocks, shocks that Rico was talking about earlier in the coverage. And every time he said they were feeling it there at work, we were also feeling it out here too. So this must be kind of in the area where things were the worst.
Marty, this is an earthquake that Caltech is telling us preliminarily measured between 6.5, 6.7 on the Richter scale. You have been a producer around Los Angeles on and off throughout your career for a long time. Is this as bad as anything you remember? Certainly the numbers would tell us it was worse than even the Sylmar earthquake of 1971.
Yeah, I was not here for that one, but I know that the couple that we've had in the last 2 or 3 years, this was by far the worst. Again, the others just had a strong rolling feeling. This had a real violent shaking about it.
Yeah, I felt the same way too. I mean, it felt, we hear this so often, it felt like a train coming down the tracks, and you could, you know, feel that thundering, and then pow, and then all of a sudden it started shaking. Everybody calm in your area? A little bit more comforted now that there's not as much shaking?
Yeah, I think the first few aftershocks, everybody, at least my wife and son and I, were very, very nervous, and, you know, it was frightening, but it hasn't been so bad lately. There have been a few aftershocks, but they've been more of a general nature, and there doesn't seem to be as much activity outside now. I think people have probably gone back into their homes, and it is a holiday, a school holiday here today, of course. So I think there's a chance that people will maybe try to just hang around the house and sleep in.
We might caution that you should look out for more aftershocks.
More details from people in the business areas as they head into the business communities to determine what damage there has been in commercial buildings. All the folks who checked in with us from hotels and from their homes have described the trembler that hit as of a major magnitude. They said furniture collapsed around them, the lights went out, and a number of communities in the Los Angeles area are without power. We're going to go back now to Larry Weissman, who is an eyewitness from the Northeast, who is visiting his parents north of Los Angeles. Larry, bring us up to date, if you would, please.
I'm in the San Fernando Valley, Sherman Oaks, California. There is still no power anywhere that I can see. I am on a major east-west street, Sherman Way. Absolutely no signal lights. An awful lot of civilian and emergency equipment going back and forth. I see no fires whatsoever in the area that I am in now, and a few people on the street doing the same kinds of things that Ron had described earlier, and the other eyewitnesses checking on family members. I've seen no damage to any buildings, but still no power whatsoever.
Some people have joined us within the past few minutes, I'm sure, Larry. If you could go back to 4:35 a.m. and describe what you felt and what you did about it.
Is about the best description you can give, and I suppose after this morning we're not going to have to tell any of the viewers what it feels like on a freight train, because it feels like this.
You can see that stylus right there, that needle just moving back and forth. It is still going very strong, and you can feel the vibrations kind of slow down a little bit. But yes, you have experienced another aftershock. We still don't know the strength of these aftershocks. We do know that the original earthquake that hit at about 5:31 was between a 6.5 and a 6.7, a very strong earthquake. Actually, it's a moderate earthquake, but it can do sizable damage, as we've been hearing about. And Paul, if you want to just run down right now what some of that damage has been, and no doubt there's probably more after this aftershock.
Of course, the most important damage, the biggest damage right now is the Santa Monica Freeway itself, as we mentioned. That is closed to Fairfax in both directions. The freeway has buckled. It's the eastbound side that has collapsed down. Now, it has collapsed down far enough so that you cannot drive underneath the freeway itself at Fairfax. Fairfax east and westbound is completely closed. There you see a map now of that Santa Monica Freeway. You're going to have to find an alternate way to go around that. Might get off at La Cienega and take Olympic. But that is going to be a problem for a long time to come. The freeway eastbound side has collapsed far enough down so that you cannot drive under it completely. We have some initial reports that there may have been some cars trapped underneath the freeway itself. That has not as yet been confirmed, but that's going to be quite a problem. Also, a lot of rocks and debris on the Santa Ana Freeway between the Long Beach Freeway and the East LA interchange is going to be bothering your commute if you indeed do choose to come into work this morning. Now, if you're on the freeway and you're driving and you feel an aftershock or an earthquake, they urge you to pull off to the side if you can, and please stay away from the underpasses. Get out of the underpasses. A lot of fire hydrants have been broken around the city. West L.A., Hollywood area, parts of the San Fernando Valley reporting blackouts as well. A lot of debris on a lot of the freeways this morning, so might be a good idea just stay where you are for a while.
Okay, Paul, can you talk or find out for us if there have been any road closures maybe on the Pacific Coast Highway or in some of those canyons? Since we had those fires, there's a lot of loose ground up there, and especially with the rains that we had back in November, there are a lot of people that are kind of worried about that area as well.
I imagine a lot of those roads, there's going to be a lot of rock slides and so on in those areas, so I'll go check that.
Also, when these things happen, we all know that the fire departments go on what's known as emergency status. If you are driving past a fire department this morning, a fire station, you will see the trucks moved from inside the garages outside. That's so the trucks can be ready to roll and not be bothered by damage in case there is another aftershock.
Good morning, everyone. You are watching KRON TV News Center 4. If you were just waking up, a strong earthquake hit Los Angeles 1 hour ago exactly at about 4:31, estimated to be a 6.5 or a 6.6. Aftershocks have been coming, especially within the last 3 minutes. One is happening right now. We are monitoring all information and pictures coming from the Southland, from KNBC, NBC News, CNN, and Story. Now we return to coverage from our sister station, KNBC.
We hope that you are fine. We're here. We will stay on the air. We'll continue to inform you. If you're looking for a comparison, and we have been mentioning these numbers throughout the morning, if you are trying to compare the strength of this morning's earthquake with past earthquakes you may recall from Southern California, let's give you a very quick rundown right now. This morning, preliminarily, we're saying that this earthquake, according to Caltech and the Earthquake Center also in Golden, Colorado, measured between 6.5 and 6.7 on the Richter scale. By comparison, the Sylmar earthquake of 1971 measured 6.4, so this morning's earthquake would be stronger than that. The Whittier Narrows earthquake of 1987 measured 5.9, so this earthquake would be stronger than that. And the biggest earthquake recently, the 1987 Imperial Valley earthquake, the Landers earthquakes, 6.2 and 6.6. That was in a mostly unpopulated area, and so the damage and death toll from that earthquake was lower, but still that was the strongest until this morning. Now we have a quake of 6.5 to 6.7, quite strong, coming through 4:31 this morning, lasting about 30 seconds, a strong, jolting, rumbling earthquake, and we have experienced, as you have pointed out, the aftershocks from that. Now, Carla,
the downtown area right now, videotape, and you have car alarms going off. Actually, you have all kinds of alarms going off. People going outside try to figure out what's happened, how much damage has been caused in their area.
This is videotape brought to us by one of our photography services. These are gentlemen who take pictures of overnight activities around Southern California. And they were on the scene as the shaking was going on, and to be on the scene this morning means to be anywhere from Santa Barbara and Bakersfield to the north, Las Vegas to the east, and San Diego to the south. This morning's earthquake, believed to have been centered in the San Fernando Valley, was felt over a very, very widespread area. Let's listen in, see what this man has to say.
I mean,
how powerful?
Oh, pretty powerful.
Hold still now.
It's just going to be a little while before
Reports of any major injuries or large numbers of casualties.
Harry, we've had an occasional report of fire and
I say live, forgive me, it is a videotape taken from earlier this morning.
Has power in some of the high-rise buildings.
Let's go live right now to Conan Nolan, who's at Caltech, and he can give us a lot more information on this earthquake. Good morning, Conan. What do they have so far?
Well, good morning, Carla. Just a few moments ago, we heard from Dr. Kate Hutton of the California Institute of Technology here in Pasadena, and she's going to be briefing us in just a few more minutes. But what we've learned thus far is that this is, and you've been reporting, this is a magnitude 6.6 earthquake. It was centered in the northern San Fernando Valley area. They're still trying to ascertain the exact epicenter. They've been in contact with the National Earthquake Center in Golden, Colorado, and the 6.6 number is what both agencies have agreed on. We understand, of course, as you've mentioned, that there are some major aftershocks. Those aftershocks are what they're using to try to nail down the epicenter of the quake. But as it stands right now, again, it's in the northern San Fernando Valley. Folks, just a few moments ago, Kent, as you were talking about the aftershock that you were feeling in Burbank, here in Pasadena, we didn't feel it very much at all. So obviously, this area has not been hit nearly as hard as some of the other areas in the valley. In fact, the lights are on here, and they've been on for the past, I'd say, past half hour to 45 minutes. Meanwhile, much of San Fernando Valley remains in the dark. As I was traveling here,
Unfortunately, we're having some problems with that audio, and we have a couple of gremlins ourselves during these earthquakes.
We will get back to Conan in a while.
But we do have other people out in the field.
Gremlins is the case, by the way, Carla. We've been showing videotape all morning long of the things that have fallen off the shelves here at Channel 4. We have a bank of monitors, of 20 television monitors, only 4 of which are standing right now. Others fell down onto desks where, had this been the height of the news day or the normal business hour, you have to imagine people would have been injured. This is what it looks like in Channel 4's hallways right now. Some of these tapes stacked there typically, but I'll tell you one thing, we do not store boxes on their sides as you're seeing in these pictures. It has just been a mess all around Southern California. Here's a desk area from one of our writers, and you can just tell that what we have here in our studio is probably somewhat similar to what you have had in your own home if you have but looked around on the walls or in the medicine cabinets, because things have come out of everywhere to come off of the wall.
It was right now 6.6. We're trying to find out where the epicenter was. That's still a question mark in San Fernando Valley. The other thing we ask at this time, how much damage? We know there has been some damage. You probably see some minor damage in your house. There has been some major damage. We can tell you about problems on the I-10 freeway, the Santa Monica freeway at Fairfax. The other thing we usually ask is injuries. At this point, we have no reports of injuries, but it is still too early to tell. That takes a while to compile.
During KNX. And Tricia, do you have any information about some of the problems on the freeways up there? Can you hear me, Tricia? I'm not sure we're going to be able to get to her. We'll let you know as soon as we have contact with her. Our reporter, Joe Avalar, is at Caltech right now. I spoke to him on the phone.
What's it been like in your area? Phil Schuman, if you're with us, say good morning. All right, we have lost Phil. We'll try to get back to him in a little while. Meanwhile, we want to go back to Conan Nolan at Caltech. We had a bit of an audio problem before. We ask your forbearance because on mornings like this, as Carla points out, technical gremlins do creep into the works. Right now, Channel 4 is operating off of emergency generator power. Conan at Caltech in Pasadena, what's the latest word?
Well, Ken, as I was saying before we had audio problems, 6.6 on the Richter scale, that is figures that have been married up between here at Caltech and also the earthquake center in Golden, Colorado. They're still trying to ascertain the exact epicenter of this earthquake, but we're told it's in northern San Fernando. They're reluctant to say the city of San Fernando because in the past there have been problems where they've given an epicenter that was incorrect, but right now they're just saying the northern San Fernando Valley. The last major earthquake, of course, here was in 1971 on February 9th. That was a 6.5, the famous San Fernando earthquake, which caused a tremendous amount of damage in that area. We don't have any reports of that kind of damage in this earthquake, which says something for the seismic retrofitting that much of the city went through over the past 20 years. But for the most part, we understand that, as you've been reporting, there are blackouts throughout the San Fernando Valley. On our way to Pasadena here, much of the valley was blacked out. In fact, there was part of the overpass of the Highway 2 in Glendale that some concrete had come down onto the roadway. For the most part, though, they tell us that they're getting very close to an epicenter. I want to show you right now, if we can. This is what the seismograph here at Caltech measured. This is the very beginning of the earthquake, and as it progressed, and you could probably get the same reading from the Channel 4 News seismograph, this is essentially the end of the main shock, and then the beginning of some of the major aftershocks. And the corresponding data from the seismograph, from this particular seismograph, reads almost the same way. Very strong, then it lightens up after, of course, we make our way through the major aftershock, and then a few more aftershocks after that. Now, keep in mind, there is a slight chance that this was a foreshock, although that diminishes with each passing minute. This was indeed, appears, the main quake that we felt at 4:30. You can brace yourself for some major aftershocks, at least a 5.5 at some point. That usually does happen, and Dr. Kate Hutton is going to be talking to us in just a few moments here, giving us the latest information on this. But in terms of aftershocks, as we all know, you can expect some major ones, at least a 5.5 at some time in the very near future, diminishing with time. That's, of course, under the assumption that this wasn't a foreshock, kind of a frightening idea that another large one is headed our way. But again, as time progresses and we're okay, there is no major shaking, then the chances of that diminish dramatically. Again, 6.6 on the Richter scale, and let's glance over and see what Dr. Hutton is now writing down, probably a shallow thrust fault. Now keep in mind, this is the San Fernando fault where the earthquake took place in 1971. Is that right? No, I was wrong. Probably a shallow thrust fault under the San Fernando Valley. Okay, Dr. Hutton, are you ready to give us a statement here, do you think? 5:45. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes. Again, they're getting information very slowly here, but they're paying very close attention to where the aftershocks are coming from, slowly narrowing it down. They hope to ascertain very shortly not only the epicenter, but how deep the quake is.
The one in India last year, I believe, was a 6.2 or 6.3. But, of course, that's where, in third world countries where you have mud huts and very poor construction collapsing on people, those can come down in a hurry. Fortunately, in this country, and especially in California, we have had some very strong seismic codes instituted in the last 30, even the last 50 years since the 1933 Long Beach earthquake. And so that does a lot to mitigating our damage in this country.
We have so far no reports of any injuries and no verified reports of any major structural damage. Does that surprise you, or are we just late getting the word?
No, it doesn't surprise me because of, as what I said, California has very strong seismic building codes, and since most of the construction in the Los Angeles basin is of the last 30 to 50 years where they have built for earthquakes, that type of civil engineering and structural engineering codes are paying off. And as we are in the business are fond of saying, earthquakes don't kill people, buildings kill people.
Thank you for talking with us. We've just talked with Pat Jorgensen of the U.S. Geological Survey in Menlo Park, California. Jan Fonder has contacted us by phone.
If you wouldn't mind, we're going to pan over. Okay, you're going to. Great. This is a bedlam right here, as you can imagine. There's a board that Caltech put in a long time ago to help the television media get a picture from this particular room downstairs. For some reason, that's not working, so we've had to go back to the old-fashioned way of cabling up from the street all the way to the second floor of the seismology building here. But in any case, Dr. Hutton's going to be giving us the latest information. I have to tell you, though, everybody adds their own personal insights into these kind of things. As a native of Southern California, I've been to my share of earthquakes. I was in the Loma Prieta earthquake at Candlestick Park in San Francisco in 1989, and I can tell you this is probably the strongest earthquake I have ever felt. It was quite remarkable.
Well, and Conan, indeed, that earthquake then in 1989 was 7.1 on the Richter scale. That was an earthquake that claimed 63 lives in the Bay Area, $7 billion in damage, and for you to say that this one was the strongest you have felt since then says something, because that was indeed a strong earthquake. The last really strong earthquake felt in Southern California was the 6.4 Sylmar earthquake in 1971. Right now, we're trying to find out if we can get Kate Hutton at Caltech, who's going to give us the live update on this morning's earthquake.
Okay, I'd like to give you a summary of the activity this morning. The preliminary magnitude is 6.6 for a quake at 4:31 this morning in San Fernando Valley. It was widely felt all over Southern California as far away as Las Vegas. We believe it was on a shallow thrust fault under the San Fernando Valley. At this point, we don't know whether it's one of the main named faults or whether it's something new. There were, well, a lot of aftershocks as far as the recording is concerned, and we haven't been able to look in detail at their magnitudes or distribution. But I know that there were at least one probably in the 5 range and several more that I personally felt. So those would be in the 4 range at least. We expect aftershocks to go on at least for a week or so, maybe a month or so for this sized earthquake at an ever-decreasing rate. So people will be feeling a little bit of shaking here and there. It's best for people to be aware of damaged structures because aftershocks will be continuing and they could cause further damage.
Dr. Hutton, how big could the next aftershock be?
Well, the textbook earthquake has an aftershock that's a little bit larger than 1 point less, or a little bit less than 1 point less than the main shock, so in the 5s. And that, and that could cause damage to damaged buildings.
This thing seemed to last a long time, the original quake. Is there any way to say, can you specify how long the earthquake lasted?
Well, it actually probably took the fault only 10 or 15 seconds to break. But because of reverberations of waves within the crust and also buildings vibrating and also aftershocks, you probably felt it for longer than that. And depending on where you are, what type of soil you're on, what type of building you're in, what floor you're in, so forth, it could be anywhere from 10 seconds to 20 or 30 seconds.
Is it your belief that this is a different fault then than what ruptured in 71 in the Sylmar quake?
At this point, it looks to be south of the activity in the 1971 earthquake. So at this point, we think it's probably not on the San Fernando fault. But it does appear to be a shallow thrust fault. So it could be a buried thrust under San Fernando Valley.
What is a shallow thrust fault? What does that mean?
Well, that's the geometry of the fault. Now, a lot of faults in California go straight down into the crust. But this one goes at, the San Fernando fault went down at an angle of about 45 degrees, and this one appears to be more shallow than that. So the fault actually has an angle to it, and San Fernando Valley would be up here, and the fault is like this. So most of San Fernando Valley is going to be exposed to activity very close to the fault. Okay, and a thrust fault means that this side is sliding up over the part below it.
Dr. Hutton, does it follow that because the initial earthquake was centered over the northern San Fernando Valley that the aftershock would be centered there as well, or could it be centered somewhere else?
Okay, well, the epicenter of the main shock is only the place where the rupture started, and then the rupture spreads out, sort of like unzipping a zipper. You start on one end and it moves all along. So the aftershocks will be distributed all around the area where the fault ruptured. So some of the aftershocks will be close to the epicenter of the main shock, and some will be near the other end or the extent of the rupture during the main shock. So that's why the aftershock distribution is so important to us, to determine exactly what the fault plane was that broke.
Can you say at this point what communities the fault runs through? Do you know exactly the path of the fault?
No, at this point we don't know exactly what fault it's on, so it's hard to say that. But if it's a shallow thrust fault under San Fernando Valley, then all of San Fernando Valley will be affected, because they will all be within a fairly close range. If I can do this thing with my hands again, here's the surface with San Fernando Valley right here. If the thrust fault is under here, then all of this whole area is going to be rather close to the fault.
Now, there was on the cube system an indication of a 2.1 at 9:29 last night and a 2.1 at 2:36 this morning in about the same place. Would those be considered foreshocks?
If they check out to be at the epicenter of the main shock, then they would be foreshocks. And frankly, I haven't had time to look at that yet.
Would there have any reason to believe that this is related to the Santa Monica quake last weekend that we had offshore?
That's another thing that we would have to look at before we could say one way or the other. I wouldn't want to rule out the possibility that there's some kind of physical relationship, because they were close in location. But on the other hand, statistically speaking, we have of the 3 size going on all the time. So anytime you have a magnitude 6.5 earthquake, you can look in the week before and find 3s. So statistically, that may be very hard to prove.
But it's safe to say they were not on the same fault. One was in Santa Monica.
They don't appear to be on the same fault. That's true.
This is probably not a foreshock in itself, right?
The chances that this quake is a foreshock, generically speaking, would be less than, or about 5%, or 1 out of 20. This particular, if we use the San Fernando Valley earthquake in '71, though, as an example of what quakes are like in this area, that was a textbook main shock aftershock sequence. I mean, there may have been a few small foreshocks, but the main shock was the first, and then the aftershocks died off.
The faults really aren't long enough in the San Fernando Valley for an 8-point earthquake, are they?
That's true. we hope that's the case. Yeah.
Can we expect most of the significant aftershocks to be contained in a certain period? I mean, would you expect them during the next 24 hours, 36 hours, something like that?
Well, the way aftershocks occur is they're the most common right after the main shock, and then they decay with time. In other words, they get less frequent with time. And earthquakes vary on how long that takes. Lander's sequence is still going on. But then, of course, that was a 7.4 earthquake. So if we compare it to San Fernando, the aftershocks, well, were mainly during the first few days, but they did go on for weeks, and on rare occasions, months later.
Magnitude of at least a 5.5, maybe even stronger than that for some.
I would expect to see an aftershock, at least one, and maybe more than that in the magnitude 5 range.
Dr. Hutton, you upgraded the earthquake along with the Earthquake Information Center in Golden, Colorado, to a 6.6. Any chance of us seeing that upgraded further?
Well, this is still a preliminary magnitude. We still have not had a chance to look at all of the records available to us, so we must...
Where I live out here is the power just immediately went out, and when I went outside, it was pitch black. You could not see your hand in front of your face. And it's still like that. I've been going around my neighborhood, checking on my neighbors, and they all agree this is the worst they've ever felt.
Have you seen any fires in your neighborhood?
I'm not quite sure yet. I think around 3:45, but I'm not quite sure. It appears to be centered somewhere in the San Fernando Valley or up towards Oxnard area. I have not got a center on an epicenter yet. I did come in through the San Fernando Valley. We probably have...
How close this was to the San Andreas Fault, and it's about 20 miles south of the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault in this area goes through Palmdale and Elizabeth Lake and Gorman. So this is not close to the San Andreas Fault.
20 miles south.
Yeah.
Still no exact fault, right, Dr. Lynch?
Well, we know it's a shallow thrust under the San Fernando Valley. We don't know whether that breaks the surface at one of the known faults or not.
Was 71 a surface?
1971 showed surface rupture along the northern edge of San Fernando Valley in the where the mountains meet the valley.
Those of you who don't remember, the 1971 quake was a 6.5 magnitude quake under the town of San Fernando, caused the 210 freeway to collapse onto the 5. This earthquake at 4:31 this morning was magnitude 6.6 under the San Fernando Valley.
The biggest thing we have gone through recently, of course, is Landers.
Landers, right.
And that was downgraded from above 7 to below 7.
No, Landers earthquake was 7.4.
7.4, but there was a lot of, anyway.
Yeah.
In terms, this is right under us, so that you know, the force, the damage, all of that is a tremendous insult to us. I mean, physical insult to us, and that we can really feel it. Correct?
Well, I don't know whether I don't particularly feel insulted. I don't really understand what you're asking.
So the Landers quake was out
I find it exemplary at Lyons Road.
As opposed to this one, which we
this is right under.
Diverting traffic
trying to
to
get
what?
a perspective here in terms of the force that we're talking about.
Well, this quake was closer to the size of the Big Bear earthquake than it was to the Landers earthquake. And the Big Bear was an aftershock to Landers, so Landers was quite a different scale than this. I mean, that was.
Dr. Hutt, we can expect some sizable aftershocks to this quake, can't we?
I would expect to see a few in the magnitude 5 range, at least.
Over how long a period of time?
Well, yeah, that remains to be seen, but if we compare it to San Fernando earthquake, there were 5s during the weeks later, although most of the activity was in the first.
Departments on tactical alert.
All right. Mayor Richard Reardon, is the chief still available, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'll put him on. Thank you very much for allowing us to communicate to the people.
Well,
Here,
thank
I'll
you,
put the
Mayor
Chief
Reardon.
Johnson on. Chief Anthony again.
Hi, Chief. We're getting video now from KTLA.
I can't. Could you speak up?
Yes. Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now?
I can hear you better. There's a lot of commotion in the Emergency Operations Center.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. We're getting video now of a house fire. I'm told it's a house fire. And would this be in the San Fernando Valley? Do
Yes,
we know?
Sir.
Somebody there, the reporter is being funded as reporting from Venice, California.
Venice? Yeah, we also, that's in the West L.A. area, and we have also had reports of damage in the West L.A., but it is not as significant in the San Fernando Valley. We've had the West Los Angeles, which would be over around the International Airport, Venice area, and Santa Monica, which is right along the bay right there. We have had reports of some fires and some damage, possibly one of the freeway bridges, but not as significant as it is in the San Fernando Valley at this time, and we do have plenty of resources in that area.
All right. Do you feel, a final question, do you...
The Nimitz Freeway in Oakland, I don't think I've ever quite seen this kind of damage to major traffic arteries here in Southern California, so the shaking in that area must have been very violent.
Yes, Larry, it was very violent. Now, my understanding, I've just been told by some of the residents who live on the north side of this freeway, they tell me that there is a storage area that's right under this freeway on the other side, under the eastbound direction. Now, I have not confirmed that. They say that there are some people who live there because they live there. They maintain the storage area, and they're there 24 hours. We don't know if anyone has been injured, and we don't know if the police even are aware that there's a storage area under there, so we're going to have to check that out.
Okay, Michelle, can you just share with us and with the Los Angeles viewers, please, what your first experience was like at 4:31 this morning when this massive earthquake shook Southern California?
Yes, quite honestly, Larry, I had just gotten into my garage in my car, and I had stuck the key into the ignition, getting ready to start the car when I realized that we were having an earthquake. I just sat there as things off the shelves from my garage fell on top of my car. Now, as you are aware, it lasted an awfully long time, I'm sure over a minute. But once it was over, then I was able to get things off my car and proceed on to the station. Now, coming from the west side, every street is out. There is no power anywhere, at least while I was going through there. There's also no phone service, I understand, from the 310 area code. It was very eerie driving into work because you couldn't see it. The only lights that were available were the lights from the cars that were traveling on Santa Monica Boulevard. I noticed a lot of people were standing outside, obviously afraid and shaken by what they experienced, not quite sure what to do. People with blankets, people in their PJs, people coming out of hotels that are on Santa Monica Boulevard. And then, of course, I made my way all the way into the station in Hollywood, and no power whatsoever. In fact, I was kind of glad to see that we had some kind of power at the station so that we could get out and broadcast out.
Okay, Michelle, what we'd like to have you do, Eric Spillman and I, is show us some more of the scene where you are there now, as we advise people not to attempt to use their telephones unless it's an absolute emergency, because that will interfere with what is obviously a huge volume of emergency calls that are going around Southern California right now. And there you can see some of the damage at the Santa Monica Freeway at Venice and La Cienega that Michelle Ruiz was explaining to us just a moment ago. I'm Larry McCormick in the Channel 5 newsroom, while on the Channel 5 news set with Eric Spillman. And let us try, Michelle, if you would stand by right there for just a minute, to explain to those who are just tuning in and to those who have just awakened what has happened in Southern California this morning. What has happened is we have had a very, very powerful earthquake that first struck at about 4:31 this morning, lasted for at least 30 seconds, possibly longer than that. We are told that the epicenter was in the San Fernando Valley, that it was a 6.5 earthquake on the Richter scale, and Eric and I have had reports that it's been felt all the way from places like Fontana and the Wilshire area, St. Andrews Place, Fresno, and all the way up as far as Tumwater, Washington. The epicenter and the intensity of the quake as we have it right now may not be the final answer, because it was felt all the way as far as Tumwater, Washington, Eric.
And Larry, what you're looking at now is a situation where you can see how severe the shaking was. And we've had reports of damage to roadways in several places in Southern California.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Sydney Kohara in the Channel 7 newsroom. There has been a major earthquake in Southern California. We are getting reports of lots of damage to the buildings and the roadways. There are reports of widespread power outages, gas leaks, and landslides. Los Angeles International Airport is closed at this time, as are some of the major freeways. We have Channel 7 crews on the way to Southern California, and we hope to have live reports from our very own crews later this morning. But for now, we want to return you to ABC News for continuing coverage of the Southern California earthquake.
This has been a special report from Channel 7 News.
Together, comfort now.
Yes, minor injuries to a couple that lived in that fire, in that house. And it was solely to that one house. My understanding is it did not spread to other houses in that area, but that is now out. However, the house has been completely destroyed.
Have you seen any other damage, Michelle, of a structural nature other than the portion of the collapsed freeway which you showed us a moment ago?
In this immediate vicinity right around this freeway, this is really the extent of the damage that we have seen. Now, of course, Larry, it's dark out. We can't see a lot, and I'm sure that we're going to be able to discover a lot more as soon as daybreak happens. Now, on our way here, we saw some damage from buildings and places of business, some windows broken, things like that. Yes,
Michelle,
Eric?
we hate to interrupt you, but we're going to go now to Skycam 5, which is in the San Fernando Valley area. Jennifer York apparently overhead the site of some serious damage. I don't know if we have that available.
Yes. But Michelle, would you stay right there? We'll get back to you.
There we go. This is, we don't have an exact location. Can we hear you, Jennifer?
It's in the San Fernando Valley, I understand, Eric. I don't know what the exact location is, but this is one of several fires, which I understand Skycam 5 is over. And
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, Jennifer. We can hear you now. Go ahead and tell us what you know.
We are just north of the 118 freeway. Again, it's very dark out here in the valley, but my guess is about Balboa, the Balboa off-ramp north of the 118. I can tell you these are homes that are completely engulfed in flames right now. It looks like at least 4 of them in the vicinity of this area that are completely ablaze right now. It looks like this could be a gas fire as well. Now, there's also a broken water main, and that is what you see on the streets. We're not able to give you a tight shot of that at this time. There's a broken water main as well. Now, as I look along the northern end of this valley, I can see about 6 other homes that are on fire throughout this various area. Again, this is just the north of the 118 freeway near the Balboa off-ramp. We do have fire trucks on the scene, but again, with...
Okay, and this would be then a cross-section of what we see through. All earthquake, and I'm doing this in north-south cross-section because most of our faults run east-west. So
at this point, although we just did see a picture of a truck that slammed into a wall that had fallen, part of which had fallen from one of the freeway overpasses. Right now, that is about all we can tell you. We have been talking with lifelong residents of Los Angeles all this morning who have said that this is one of the strongest earthquakes they have ever felt, and we have seen those
pilots to come, and they were coming from the Valencia area, the Acton area, and he said there was just one lane of the 14 at the 5 open at that point, so I'm not quite sure what happened to the freeway at that area. I also noticed while driving to the airport in Van Nuys that the sound wall on the 101 westbound to the northbound 405 had collapsed. A portion of that wall had collapsed as well. Again, we're just north of the 118 freeway. My best guess is near Balboa. Most of the lights throughout the valley are off, and this fire has burned at least 4 or perhaps now 5 homes. We do have the fire department on the scene, and there's a broken water main which is causing quite a bit of water throughout these surface streets right around the 118, I believe, Balboa off-ramp.
I'm wondering if there's any way we can get a view of the whole valley. Can you see a number of fires there as you pull out?
Yes, I do. We were watching we could see just lights flashing as if lightning was hitting the valley, and those were, of course, the transformers blowing up. Again, as I just look around, I can see at least 4 homes to the south of us, and at least 4 or 5 on the hill to the north of us, up near the 210 freeway that are...
You're getting a little breakup from you here, Jennifer. When you got to Van Nuys Airport, was there any obvious structural damage at the airport, if you can hear me, Jennifer?
No, we didn't have any damage per se. They had been working on the building next to us, and some of the glass that had been taken off the windows and it was replaced. The older glass had shattered, and that was...
Okay, we're losing Skycam's picture. Jennifer, if you would stand by.
We're looking at pictures from where Michelle Ruiz is, which is on the Santa Monica Freeway near La Cienega, and this is the site of a major freeway collapse, and we've seen how the whole entire freeway is buckled in that area.
I guess it would be advisable to tell people that they shouldn't use the freeways, particularly those areas of the freeways which have overpasses or underpasses, unless it's absolutely necessary, because that's an obvious area of great danger.
Yeah. We've heard that several freeways are closed, in fact, because of damage. And there we're looking at the fire in the San Fernando Valley, the area that
The Landers earthquake a year and a half ago lasted longer because it was a 7.3 and it lasted for 35 seconds. This we seem to have about 10 seconds of strong ground motion. We have more damage in Los Angeles because we're right underneath it, especially the San Fernando Valley, but this is going to be rupturing towards West LA. And so that also tends to focus the energy a little bit.
There were several quakes right near the main shock, right? Because this thing did continue jolting for more than 10.
They're aftershocks, sure.
Right. And
we don't have a good handle on the aftershocks.
In terms of definition, we say that the size of the feeling of the earthquake is proportional to the length of the fault. Then does that mean that this is as big an earthquake as we can expect from that fault?
No.
Or is that fault hundreds of miles long and capable of something else?
There are faults in Los Angeles capable of more than that.
Good morning again. I'm Jeffrey Schaub. We're continuing our coverage of the earthquake in Los Angeles now. We're going to do as we do in these stories. We're going to switch back and forth to the most recent, most latest information. And right now, we're going to join CNN and KTLA for their live coverage of the earthquake.
KTLA News is marshaling its forces to bring you as complete a report as we can. I'm Larry McCormick from the KTLA News Center with Eric Spillman. Sunrise is at 6:58 this morning, Eric, and it probably will be then before we can get a complete picture of just what damage has been done.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, beyond that...
Add quickly that the report that the Santa Monica Freeway was closed is confirmed. Apparently, there was a major collapse at the intersection of La Cienega. That's an elevated portion of the freeway there. And we've seen some pictures coming in just a short while ago, which shows what appears to be some very serious damage there. As you reported before, there are lots of fires. It looks like large ones throughout the Los Angeles area, in Santa Monica, throughout the San Fernando Valley. And once again, there are reports of some collapsing buildings, portions of buildings collapsing in and around the Hollywood area.
And Ron, it's obvious from the picture I now see that you're operating under emergency power or with a couple of flashlights, am I correct?
Absolutely. Flashlights, candles, and some emergency lights.
Our affiliate, KABC, Ron.
House fires, there have been some transformers that have exploded, creating some fires, and again, we said we are talking about some house fires. The 10 freeway in Los Angeles, some areas have apparently been buckled, and certain sections of that freeway have been closed. LAX airport has been closed. Again, sporadic fires. We were told that at least 2 buildings in the downtown West Los Angeles area had collapsed because of this earthquake.
Again, we're looking at a live picture from a fire now at Laurel, and here we go. Laurel and San Fernando. This is in the town of San Fernando, very close to the epicenter. Also, we understand on the 14 freeway, it's closed. At the Golden State Freeway, the overpass has collapsed there. Now, Paul Johnson handed this to me. We are getting reports there are 3 vehicles trapped in that area. We're trying to get more information on that as well. Also, we talked about the Santa Monica Freeway, the 10 freeway being closed at Fairfax on the eastbound side. Also, we understand now it's collapsed so far, it's buckled so far, you can't drive underneath the freeway.
What's going on?
How are things at home?
Just basically, this is about like this, you know. Everybody's, you know, outside, you know, waiting for, you know, aftershocks or something. You know, that's about it.
Thank you for talking with us. Now, so you can see residents are just standing here outside, and we have seen a lot of that this morning. I have been able to confirm from the CHP here that so far they are not aware of any damages from people who are actually traveling on the freeway at the time this earthquake took place. There are no cars trapped above there. Fortunately, everyone was able to get off. Now, let me just tell you, for those viewers who just turned in, on our way here, we traveled on La Cienega Boulevard, and we saw some extensive damage from some of the buildings and places of business, windows shattered. We drove by the Beverly Center on our way here and noticed some damage from the Beverly Center onto the street, bricks, glass, all kinds of things. Of course, we'll get a better gauge of all the damage once they...
Your car there?
Yeah, it's behind the point, but the ground is cracked open. There's gas flowing out of the ground.
Well, were you driving to work when it happened?
Oh, no, we just tried to bail out of the house. Our house is probably lit up right by now. I don't know.
And so you were driving out trying to get away, and what happened? The street just opened up?
The cracks started appearing, and then gas started flaming up in there. In the beginning, it was just like fumes, and then it just exploded.
Do you know if anybody's been hurt?
I don't know. We just bailed out. As far as I know, there's people stuck on the other side.
Yeah, the problem here is that we can't get any farther north, and the emergency crews are having problems getting up north on Balboa, too, because the water is just flowing down here. As you can see, just a huge raging river right now, and you can see a lot of the residents are standing in front of their properties here just looking out. Well, also what we can't send over the air is the fact that the smell here is just tremendous. There's just a horrible smell of gas right now, and we're all a little bit concerned because there's a gas station right here within just a few yards of where we're standing.
Linda, can you hear us?
Yes.
Now, can you describe the area that you're in? Is this a residential area? Is it businesses? You think there's a gas station nearby? Are there homes on those streets? Tell us what's there.
It's primarily a residential area. Balboa is, as you know, mostly business, and Rinaldi, too. A lot of business areas. That's why I'm referencing the gas station. But once you get north of Rinaldi, and again, we are just north of the 118, then you head north into Balboa, and this part of Balboa is almost all residential. I also want to add...
We are getting reports of freeways closed. Los Angeles International Airport, we are told, has been closed. The San Diego Freeway, the 405 connected to the 105, has been closed.
Firefighters in Los Angeles earlier this morning. Why don't we just listen in?
Right down on top of them, okay? Okay. We need you to do that.
Okay.
We are getting a lot of this footage in raw, and on occasion we do get a live feed from Los Angeles, so we must apologize for the somewhat haphazard nature of what we're presenting to you about the earthquake which struck Southern California at 4:35 this morning, has caused a number of injuries. A number of buildings have suffered some structural damage, particularly older buildings, but we haven't as yet been able to get a full reading as to whether any major buildings were made inhabitable by the quake. Judy, you want to pick it up from there?
Sure. Well, I'll continue to tell you basically what I saw, which is that people were huddled outside
Los Angeles area right now, according to Caltech in Pasadena, it's measured somewhere around 6.6 on the Richter scale. The epicenter is somewhere in the San Fernando Valley. This happened about a minute after 4:30 early this morning. We're going to be looking at pictures throughout this morning as we switch back and forth to our affiliate stations in Los Angeles. Right now, we can tell you that there are widespread power outages throughout the Los Angeles area that have been reported. There are a lot of fires. So far, none of them said to be major. Los Angeles Mayor Reardon has called a state of emergency in the area, and residents there are feeling strong aftershocks this morning. Some radio and TV stations have been knocked off the air. As we understand it, Channel 7 KBC in LA is still off the air right now. In the San Fernando Valley area, we've been looking at pictures of fires going in that area. Apparently started, or we assume started, by natural gas.
Into the sky. And they are saying this is earthquake related. Something happened. It was ignited probably from a gas source, and the whole building is really lost. When I say the whole building, I'm talking of the top floors. It appeared to run through the attic area. Some of the lower floors at the present time do not seem to have been touched. But this has been burning for quite some time. You can hear the hose going into the building. Carlos, do we want to just take a second? I just want to show some of the damage over to the right here.
Stan, while you're looking at that,
yes, Larry.
Let us ask you, you covered the Sylmar quake in 1971, and I was here when that occurred too, and I do not remember such problems with fires and broken gas mains.
Well, that's true, Larry. Now, from our point of view, we have spotted only 2 fires, but of course, you know, a huge city, but...
Jennifer York, for your information, was reporting to Eric and I at least 10.
10 fires. Well, yes. and it's true, we did not have that many at that particular time. But
we're feeling another minor, smaller aftershock here, Stan. I don't know if you're feeling it where you are, but we just
not at the moment, but we are. Well, we can hear. I tell you what happened. Carlos, can you make one more spin? We could this building here. We can hear some of the glass that is falling, but here along the street, all of the plates of this type. And just the glass broke, the items just fell out of the stores. Another thing along Ventura Boulevard, which I don't know if we can quite see. Carlos, do you mind making one more turn? This is going to be a little tougher. Beyond the red truck down there, can we see the water? This is a big water main, a big fire plug that is suspending water up, 50, 60 feet into the air. And there are several along Ventura Boulevard of that, where the water main is broken, the fire plug is gone, and the water is spinning up there.
We can just barely see it.
Another aftershock.
Yeah. The aftershocks are coming now every few minutes or so. Stan Chambers in the San Fernando Valley in the Sherman Oaks area. Michelle Ruiz is in West Los Angeles, where she has reported to us.
I was hoping we could talk to him. Yeah, this is just the one thing that we should point out to people. What you're looking at are the most severe examples of damage and fire resulting from the earthquake. In a lot of places, and we've spoken to viewers who've called in, they felt the shaking, obviously, but it may have just knocked a few things off the shelf or something like that, and did not cause the kind of damage or destruction that we're seeing here in these pictures.
Yes.
So in many areas, we don't want to give a false impression. In many areas, the earthquake was felt severely, but it didn't cause it anywhere near the type of damage we're seeing now. And I'm wondering if we could go back to Stan, and Stan, if you could give us a description of what you saw on the way to the location where you're at now. Did you see a lot
of the epicentral area for the 1971 Sylmar quake, which had a
major earthquake in the Los Angeles area? It happened about 4 this morning, measured 6.6 on the Richter scale, and it has caused widespread damage in the LA area. You are looking at live pictures from Channel 2, KCBS in Los Angeles. They've been reporting on sporadic fires and other kinds of damage, flooding from fire hydrants and that kind of activity. I want to tell you just a couple of things. LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, is shut down. Several freeways have been closed either due to damage or so that Caltrans and other authorities can check them out. That includes parts of 405, Interstate 5, and the Santa Monica Freeway. We are going to rejoin KTLA now in Los Angeles for continuing live coverage.
It's a black smoke. It's a very big burning fire.
Okay, Stan, we're going to have to break in if we could right now. You stand by there. Daybreak is about 28 minutes away, or about 25 minutes away, actually, at 6:58, at which time we should get a better idea of just how much damage has been caused. But right now, we're going to go back to Jennifer York in Skycam 5. At last report, she was telling us about a number of fires in the San Fernando Valley. Jennifer?
Larry, what you're looking at right now is, I believe, 3 separate apartment complexes that are under fire just southeast of the Devonshire Police Station. That's the best location I can give you, just southeast of the Devonshire Police Station. These appear to be 3 separate apartment complexes. Fire department is on the scene here, but this is just one of many fires as I look out north to me of the throughout the San Fernando Valley. Just one separate fire. There seems to be at least 10 other homes on fire. Again, we were told that there might be another fire burning near Cal State Northridge.
As well, some major freeway collapses. We saw one at I-10 at La Cienega that's headed towards Santa Monica. As well, there was one at I-5.
I-5 at Highway 14. Also reports of part of the town of Fillmore being evacuated because a dam may have structural damage. Also reports elsewhere along I-5 of damage. And we might mention that in 1971...
But they're having trouble dealing with all of them. They've been asking people to stay off the roads. Los Angeles Mayor Richard Reardon has declared a state of emergency following this quake. And during the morning, and the sun is just coming up now in Los Angeles, which will be a relief to everybody, but I imagine we'll have more tremors throughout the morning. We've already experienced several just sitting here talking to you.
And we have a report here that one of the major highways, the Simi Valley Highway, has been closed because a bridge spanning the Simi Valley Freeway collapsed and the roadway buckled in several places, cutting off one of the main arteries from the San Fernando
areas. We've had people call in reporting the smell of natural gas. This here, it looks like an actual gas main broke apart, and the gas itself from the main is on fire.
Yes, it's being fed by the gas there, as you can see, Eric. Also, I think we should point out to people who may or may not have had travel plans that at last report, Van Nuys Airport was closed, LAX was closed. We don't know whether that was closed because of damage or because of the possibility of some damage, but be advised that LAX and the Burbank Airport are also closed. We have had, as Eric mentioned a moment ago, at least 10 aftershocks. We continue to feel them. Aftershocks, of course, always mean the possibility of increased damage from the main quake itself. So if you perceive that you are in a building, whether it be a residence, a single-family detached building, an apartment building, or wherever, which may have sustained some damage in the original quake, then it would be advisable that you take precautions because an aftershock may cause even further damage.
Right, and let's talk again about what some of our reporters in the field have seen as they've driven around. Debris in streets, people out on the street. Many people, after the quake happened, just went right out onto the street. They're fearful of going back into their homes, and we understand that. They're standing around. We've had reports of a train derailing in the Van Nuys area near the old Van Nuys auto plant.
Whittier described the quake this morning as a rolling jolt. Again, you're looking at pictures of some of the damage right now from the quake we felt that hit at 4:31 this morning. 2 separate fires you're looking at here.
The Laurel Canyon fire and the Sherman Oaks fire. As Carla reported, these are separate fires. They are not in the same area, and there are other fires throughout Southern California, and obviously we have crews going out into the Fillmore area.
As well.
The story about the dam there could
we
be extremely
talk about
serious.
today being a holiday. This is Martin Luther King's birthday. A lot of people are off, but we have had a call from the school district today, and they're asking that principals and plant managers report to their schools. They want them to go in and survey the damage in those areas and call in superintendents or watch commanders to report some of that damage.
Yeah, the best thing to remember today is probably, not only as we've said this many times, we can't overemphasize it, is to stay calm, and the best thing is just stay home. If you have a doubt about whether or not to go to work today, the best thing is just to stay home.
The Burbank Police Department has reported that it has had several calls this morning, people trapped in their homes. The fire department apparently responded to one call of a woman who was trapped underneath her bed. Again, there's a lot of damage in the area. A lot of people are
trying to phone out, the best thing to do if you can is to stay home and stay off the phone.
Newsroom. Power outages throughout the Los Angeles area. Phone lines are jammed. Please don't try to call down to the Los Angeles area right now because calls are being restricted. We understand from the LA County Fire Department there have been calls with over 100 fires down in the area. There are broken fire hydrants, water lines, creating a problem for firefighters trying to control those blazes. Now, we're also getting reports of at least half a dozen freeways that have been damaged, including some sections of the roadway that have actually buckled. We saw one report from one of our affiliates, and you're looking at some pictures right now. In fact, right now we are going to go to our affiliate in Los Angeles, KCBS, CBS LA down in Southern California. We're going to take their live reports right now.
That's the fire up in Sherman Oaks in the hills, the Stone Canyon area. That burned $1 million home. We have pictures of that we'll try to get back to you a little bit later. We're in an area where we couldn't get a signal out, but we just watched the family's whole life virtually wiped out in front of them. A tragic situation. That was a huge, huge fire at the end of a block up in the mountains. But as far as this area, this commercial area, this is the only fire that we can see here. But there are all kinds of damage being inflicted on the businesses all up and down this block, and people are out here trying to assess the damage right now.
I assume the street areas are closed off to traffic, although we did see some cars go in back of you.
Yeah, just a few cars are being allowed through, and the fire people here are keeping a close eye and monitoring that situation to see if people really have to be through here. You know, this is such a vital thoroughfare in this area that they're trying to keep Ventura open as much as possible, especially because they have all kinds of fire equipment and apparatus that still has to come through. Right now we see in the distance another engine company coming to join in this effort because these people here, it's getting away from them.
And Jose, as you talk on the screens of our viewers right now, we are watching the situation in Northridge, looking right now at a water main break, seeming to be on the verge of sweeping away those vehicles right near it. And off to the left there, you see the billowing fire that has not let up in intensity one bit in the past 30 minutes or so that we've been watching it, obviously being fed by natural gas.
Although it was interesting because Linda Moore said that the water main break there possibly was helping the firefighters keep this situation in control from spreading.
You know what we need to do right now, Linda? We want to get some perspective as best we can. Let's see if we can get a shot from Chopper 2. And there it is.
Good.
We're looking down, I think now, on this situation where...
Or even more that she told us before, burning in the San Fernando Valley. Jennifer?
Well, Larry, we're just flying southeast of the 210-5 interchange. What you're looking at is a mobile home park, one of two that are burning in this vicinity here. We'll try and show you both of them. Again, they were just southeast of the 210-5 interchange. I also noticed that the northbound 5 is completely shut down. This is near Roxford, so the Interstate 5 is completely shut down at Roxford. You cannot go north up to the 210. Again, this is just one mobile home park, which we noticed also in the Laguna fire that they're very susceptible to burn because of their propane tanks that are along the side of each mobile home. This is one. Let's see if we can go ahead and, I don't know if we're able to show you the other one as well. This is burning just a little north of us. Again, this is just between the 210 and the 5. We'll pan over and show you this other mobile home park that is burning as well. I don't see a lot of...
This is Frank Somerville talking again. We are getting reports now from the mayor of Los Angeles, Richard Reardon, that there is at least one death being reported. Apparently it happened on one of the freeways in Southern California. Again, one death so far as a result of the earthquake this morning. Now let's go back to KTLA Live.
Show you now the other fires I was mentioning. When we were over the fire near the 118 and Balboa Boulevard, I had looked to the north and seen homes burning on the hill, and that's what we're about to show you. This is just north of the 210 freeway, which is just a little east of the 5 interchange. We're going to show you at least, looks like about 7 homes now burning on this hillside as well. It looks as if they have not shut down this freeway yet. This is the 210 freeway, just to the east of the 210-5 interchange.
Jennifer, while we continue to look at the pictures you're showing us here from the valley, the first report of an earthquake-related fatality comes from Los Angeles Mayor Richard Reardon, who says one person has died as a result of the quake, and this person apparently died on a freeway, and we don't know exactly where this was or what the circumstances were relating to this one fatality, but the first earthquake-reported death coming from Mayor Reardon. We'll try and get some more details.
We were just saying a moment ago that we felt fortunate there were no reports of injuries or of fatalities, but now there is one. By the way, if you have an emergency, we should pass along the information that the number for the American Red Cross, should you need them, is area code 213-739-4507. And it's my understanding, Eric, that we're going to try to get in touch with Mayor Reardon and get the message and try to broadcast it to our viewers that he gave to CNN a moment ago.
These pictures that you're looking at, this is just one of several fires that are burning in the San Fernando Valley. The estimate that we have is that there are as many as 40 homes reported burning in Sylmar. There is a fire.
An entire home. When this hit, you know, there could very well be some people inside.
Bob, that would be my guess that there are. We see two people down there on what looked to be what's left of the driveway. You see the car is tumbled down with it there, and they keep waving at you up there in the helicopter. Tragically, probably thinking you're a rescue helicopter. Those people apparently need some help down there.
They do, and the only help they're going to get is going to be from volunteers. I want you to look at another area here where another rear portion of a home collapsed. Now, I think we need to, the fire department, we've been monitoring at least 200 fire department and police department frequencies throughout the county. And LA City is stretched beyond limits. No additional resources could be sent. Now, what I'm going to do here, and stay with me, is we're going to get an address here. And if you're in the area and you can help, if you've got any emergency medical training, or if you're fire department personnel, let me give you the address here. Let me see if we can get a street location. Look for street signs here.
In the hills above Sherman Oaks, you can see a fire in the distance. There are about 9 fires burning.
Hang on. Where's the street sign?
Unbelievable pictures from Los Angeles. There is looting reported in parts of Los Angeles. Los Angeles International Airport has been shut down as a precaution.
The word from seismologists there.
We're going to get a rundown here, Laura, here at the University of California on what this quake did in terms of the geology in Southern California. With me now is Mike Pasianos, who's a seismologist here at the University of California. A 6.6 quake this morning. Any change in that number right now?
Nope, 6.6 is the latest. Originally, we had a higher magnitude up here, but as soon as we got all the information in, 6.6 is our magnitude.
Okay, let's take a look here. You have a computer that can show us where this quake hit. Now, we're looking at Southern California. The red lines that you see on the screen are the freeways. This is Interstate 5 running through Southern California here, through the Valencia Magic Mountain area, and then dropping into the San Fernando.
Leave it there and have to wait till dawn to get a ride.
Let's brief you on the status and after effects of the California earthquake as it has evolved in the not quite 2.5 hours since the quake hits, just after 4:30 a.m. Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern time this morning. The quake measured 6.6 by most of the seismological estimates we're getting on the Richter scale. It hit, as we said, at 4:31 Pacific time. It was still dark, still is.
I'm sure they're going to find all the goods are on the floor. At my house, I live on the top floor of a high-rise building, which of course gets the full sway. There's nothing left on the shelves. There's nothing left standing, as a matter of fact. When I left, I had to crawl over broken furniture and broken glass to get to the door, and then have a neighbor help me open the door to get out. I'm sure a lot of people are facing the same situation all over town.
Judy, the sun is, as we see here in New York, just beginning to come up in Los Angeles. Excuse me, and you mentioned the problem along the freeways, and the mayor, excuse me, the mayor of Los Angeles has reported the first fatality.
Yeah.
He said it occurred on a freeway. He didn't say where or what caused it. You also were mentioning a number of communities up and down the West Coast have been affected.
Just
yes,
to interrupt you, Mary Reardon has just told us that that fatality occurred on the freeway, and I don't know exactly the circumstances, but there are 3 freeways that sustained serious structural damage. And
6 earthquake that hit about 4:30 this morning.
There is a huge fire burning in Sherman Oaks. Also, you're looking live at it right now. 40 to 50 homes are on fire near Sylmar, where the quake was centered in the San Fernando Valley. Right now, we want to join station KTLA in Los Angeles, where they're continuing live coverage of the situation.
Not as bad over where I was, but long and shook a lot, and there's considerable damage, even in my building there.
What did you experience personally when it hit?
Everything falling out of the cabinets, you know, the building swaying. I'm on the 4th floor, so a lot of movement. Everything out of the cabinets, everything out of the closets, just things falling over and breaking. And like I said, that's way over where I am, so I can imagine how bad it must be where Mark is. They're driving in. There are a lot of people, maybe they're frightened and maybe they're in their cars because they don't want to stay in their homes. Sure. But I have to tell you, there are a lot of cars. For this situation, there are a lot of cars. I came in on Santa Monica Boulevard. A lot of cars there. Of course, the traffic lights don't work. There's going to be an accident. You know, it's waiting to happen. The traffic lights don't work. So I don't know what to tell people to do. I'm sure they're too frightened to stay in their homes, but driving around in your car may not be the safest thing to do either.
Especially with the amount of freeway damage and road damage that we've heard about so far. And the worst of it, of course, is that situation on the Santa Monica Freeway where a section of the freeway has actually collapsed. And that's just one of several reports. That area in West Los Angeles, we have the connector road between...
Again, this is on the Santa Monica Freeway at La Cienega Boulevard as Laurel Erickson attempts to climb up to the top there that has flattened down to the ground. Laurel, be careful up there.
Yeah, we are. Now we're up on top of the freeway, and we can see the damage, the buckling. Thank heavens nobody was on this freeway as they were traveling to work this morning. If you can imagine, if you drive on this freeway, what this looks like. And underneath the freeway, it looks... We are, Lacey, we are one block east of La Cienega, on the Santa Monica Freeway, exactly. And if 1 block to the west of La Cienega, you can see the house still on fire over there. That's the smoke.
Bridge has come up from the freeway here, buckled in the center there. It is just really almost indescribable here. And you can see it going all the way across all lanes of the Santa Monica Freeway here at Fairfax and Washington. You can see the major concrete damage here, and there have been many victims here. We've talked to a couple of the drivers, miraculously escaped this problem here. This car here, you can see here, Ramon, go ahead and pan to the red car here. This guy told me he was coming down the freeway and just simply careened off of this 4-foot drop, but luckily there were 2 people inside the car. They made it fine. However, we're not sure about this driver here to our right in this silver truck here. There's quite a bit of blood inside of this car and broken glass, and as you can see, he just hit this thing as soon as the freeway bridge came up. He was just very bad timing and hit this thing head on. And one of the witnesses did see him, and his head hit the windshield here, and he just took off. We don't know where he is right now.
You know, it's amazing, Dave, when you think about this. This hit at 4:31 this morning. Freeways are almost empty at that point.
As you can see, there might have been an injury, but at this time it's not known. Right now, you can find out that the freeway has been demolished. And right now, we'll give it back to
Lacey, here, a gentleman. Thank you.
Okay, who
Laurel, this is Laurel, Carla. This is Lacey Loeb who was talking. And Lou, do you want to turn the camera around so folks out there can know who their on-the-spot reporter is? He may just end up with a reporting job instead of managing the public storage. Lacey, tell us, you were here this morning when the freeway crashed. Tell us what you heard and what you saw.
As I'm in the public storage, and when we came out, the freeway was collapsed. There are 2 people that are still living under here, and I just haven't heard from them. They are competitors. They're self-storage. We're public storage.
Okay, fine.
And as I say, everything was shaking. All of a sudden, the freeway collapsed, and as you can see now, it's totally demolished.
Okay, Lou, you want to show us the freeway right here? We're going to be looking westbound.
Laurel, can you clarify this? He said that 2 people were living underneath there. Are we to believe that they are trapped at this time?
We don't. That's what we don't know. Lacey says that he's been telling different people. So, Lacey, have you told the police also?
There are 2 people that live inside here. I haven't told police. I've been calling, constantly checking on them.
So you haven't told authorities that you have simply been trying to reach them yourself on the telephone?
Yes.
Okay, we would like to remind our viewers that some of this information right now is incomplete. These are live pictures, and as we come upon some of this destruction and some of this information, we're just getting little tidbits. So this is unofficial. We don't know if there are people trapped underneath or not. We do know right now from these pictures that the La Cienega Boulevard overpass at the Santa Monica Freeway has collapsed.
And right now,
has been in touch with the White House, and of course, President Clinton has asked that we do everything that is humanly possible to help the state and to help the victims of the disaster, and that's what we're doing right now. We're putting together the teams necessary to do that.
And from the looks of things, a lot of help will be needed. Maury Goodman of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency in Washington, thanks for talking with us. If you just joined us,
thank you, Mark.
Mr. Goodman was telling us that an office has already been established.
Idea on that. That's the first information we have, but we will have somebody down there responding, emergency crews, to check on that.
Now, right over here, if we can avoid falling through the cracks, we've got these cars. What is the situation with the cars on the freeway? They're obviously headed eastbound on the Santa Monica Freeway about La Cienega.
What we had was 2 collisions, none of which resulted in any injuries to the drivers or passengers of the vehicle, so they are non-injury collisions. They are obviously right here because of the emergency extraction of the vehicles from the freeway. Can't happen until we can get this situation stabilized.
And what happened to the people? You said no injuries,
No
but where
injuries.
are they?
The people are fine. They are off the freeway at this time.
Do you know where they were taken?
I have no idea where they were taken. They would not have been transported since they were not injured, but they would have been back at our command post, which would be at La Brea Avenue.
Laurel, if you can stand by for just a moment. The time right now is 7 o'clock, and we do need to update.
You're watching KRON TV San Francisco.
Yes, we just got this in. Pacific Bell is blocking calls into the L.A. area, and that means if you are from out of this state and you try to call friends here to see how they're doing, what you'll get is a message that all circuits are busy, and that's in order to keep lines free for within the area, and they need to do that. We need to be able to communicate with one another here in the city. So if you have relatives here, wait for them to call you. That would be the best thing to do if you can possibly manage it. Because of the interdependence of Western power grids, there are power outages as far north as Portland and Seattle. We reported that earlier. There's even Wyoming is suffering, Idaho, Oregon. So those are some of the ripple effects of this this earthquake. I say fire because we've just been through that disaster. It's so fresh in our minds. And looking at these pictures of Sylmar, it brings back Malibu and Laguna all over again. I mean, this state has really been through it this year.
Judy, Kevin Eckerly, who is a spokesman for the governor of California, is standing by now to brief us. Mr. Eckerly, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine, thank you.
Well, what do you know about what's going on that perhaps we haven't reported? It looks to be a rather serious event that we're watching here, at least in the community of Sylmar in the San Fernando Valley.
Well, at this point, we're still assessing the damage.
Which collapsed apparently right near Santa Monica. Looks a lot like the Nimitz Freeway, as you recall, just 5 years ago or so. Here in the Bay Area.
And this is just one of a handful of freeway closures as well. Sun is just beginning to come up around the Southland right now, so they are just now getting a better handle on damage estimates. As far as injuries goes, the mayor as well confirming a little while ago that one fatality has been reported.
But no major reports of injuries at this hour. Still waiting for that to come in. As you can see, it's just now becoming dawn. The past 20 minutes, half hour or so, starting to get light. So there are lots of reports of fires, problems with the fighting the fires because the water pressure is gone. Gas lines are broken all over the Los Angeles area, and the firefighters are busy throughout. Caltrans, as a matter of fact, from Northern California is sending workers to Los Angeles to help figure out what to do about the highway system. Santa Monica, as you can see, this freeway has...
And there are many, many bricks lying around, many, many broken windows. And certainly the homeowners in the area have suffered tremendous losses. And I've just been told that right below the Ventura sign down here, there is a very big gas leak right down below the this restaurant down here. It says the Ventura. Apparently there was a very large gas leak down there, and in fact the smell of leaking gas is sort of permeating the area. Anyway, there's also this art gallery. Windows are broken out. We'll walk across the street here so that you can take a quick look at this. It is obviously a very, very serious situation. And as I had said before...
Marta, we're going to have to interrupt you because we want to go right now live to Jennifer York, who is at the site of that freeway collapse that we showed you earlier. This is in the West Los Angeles area, right?
I know, Eric. We're in the northern end of the valley. This is where the 14 meets the 5. This is the southbound direction of the 14. As you can see, it is completely collapsed. As this is the transition road onto the southbound Golden State. We do have a county fire landing on the freeway. We've been told that there are people trapped inside their cars I've counted at least 5 cars that are demolished by this collapse of the freeway. Again, this is the southbound transition road of the 14 onto the southbound Golden State. As you can see, there are some people standing around their cars, and apparently people still alive trapped inside their cars, and that is why the county fire helicopters just landed on the freeway. Show that it's a little to the right, Martin, if you want to pan over there a little bit. They just landed, and we'll stand by to see exactly what they do. Again, both sides of the 14 have been closed, and also the northbound Golden State before the 14.
Jennifer, so what is collapsed down on the what we see here? This is the 14 transition.
This is the 14
and this
to
is
the south.
Well, there was some years ago one stronger, but this is such a violent, shallow quake. The October 1989 earthquake in San Francisco was 7.1. This is 6.5, but because of the shallow nature of it 9 miles down, they believe it really, really rocked and rolled. We now have 2 fatalities confirmed, and I don't know details of either. I know there were 2 heart attacks triggered by the quake, apparently not fatal.
It is basically tying up traffic here and flooding everywhere, especially on the east and westbound Rinaldi direction, going towards, say, the 405 freeway. Traffic basically is moving at a snail's pace. Water going over towards the 118 freeway. We're not sure what the extent of damage is over there. And further beyond, as we're heading in towards Northridge, again, traffic moving very slowly. All that because of, again, as we take a swing right back over here, that's a major gas line rupture and a major water main rupture here. Again,
we can also see 1 car in the wreckage on top, Jennifer, so you're also saying that there are some underneath.
I saw at least 2, I believe, that were underneath. It's hard to tell with all the destruction. Again, as I look north of me, north of this interchange, there are quite a few truckers that have had to pull over, so this entire freeway, the southbound 5 is shut down well before this interchange, the 514 interchange. This has collapsed the southbound 14 transition road right on top of
We're feeling another
the
aftershock.
southbound lane.
We are also just getting word now from Los Angeles that a total of 3 people are confirmed dead from the earthquake that hit this morning, the 6.6 quake. We rejoin KTLA now.
You can see that the problem is, for those of you who are inexperienced in earthquake things like this, what happens is you have a significant shock, like an earthquake, the first earthquake, and then that does weaken structures, and often even a 3-point earthquake can bring down an entire building depending on how much damage. And now we're getting a real
this is quite a long one.
Aftershock.
The lights are shaking here.
In fact, I could see when I was driving in, I suppose that was an aftershock happening when I was driving in on Santa Monica. Suddenly there were some bricks that started falling off the building as I was driving in. So don't think that you're safe out there and it's okay to go driving around, as some people were.
Let's talk about fatalities. Now we have a report that there are as many as 3 earthquake-related fatalities. The first death was reported by Mayor Reardon, who says that 1 person died apparently on a freeway. We're not exactly sure what freeway it was, but that's where one of the deaths occurred. And then Cedars-Sinai Hospital is reporting that 2 people apparently died of heart attacks as a result of fright from the earthquake. So that would make a total of 3 deaths that we know about from this earthquake, and I'm sure when we see pictures like this, the numbers are going to go up.
I'm not going to kid you, Eric, or any of you that are sitting here with us as we watch these pictures. It scared me to death. This was one of the most frightening events that I have ever gone through as a Californian. Our entire house was shaking. The kids were screaming upstairs. We were trying to locate one another. We were trying to figure out what to do, and not knowing how long this was going to last. Mark, it seemed, you said earlier that it seemed like it was going on forever as you were trying to gather your family together.
It hit right in that San Fernando Valley area that's where I live, right in that area, and I'm on the 3rd story of an apartment building, and I'm facing the back wall, and I just found out about 10 minutes before I got here, the manager went around and he said, it looks bad, the building, the back wall, I think is going to come down. And that's where my bedroom is actually at. I took some footage at home, and we might be able to get that on a little bit later, just what it looks like inside. It was pretty dark. I don't know if we'll be able to get that, but it was scary. And the next-door neighbor, she's an 85-year-old lady. She's very weak and feeble, and that's just as we were walking out of the building, my wife said to me, I wonder if she's out. We started knocking on her door. We couldn't hear her, so I kicked down the door. Unfortunately, I did because she was in bed in total shock. So I managed to get her out and get her pills and whatever, and we got her out. But the building I'm living in does not look like possibly we might not be able to move in.
You live in the valley, and I live out in Thousand Oaks, which is beyond the valley to the west, closer to where apparently the epicenter was. And epicenter is totally relationship when you're talking about a 6.6 earthquake. You can feel it all over. Sam, you're on the west side of L.A.
The sense that I had after it happened and we kind of collected our thoughts was...
no, you're on.
Yeah, there we go. Initially, and we were very frightened, but fortunate in that all these preparations that people talk about, we had the flashlight and the fire extinguisher and the portable radio right by the side of our bed. And then finally, I went and got a cellular phone from the car, and when we called into Channel 5, I said, oh my gosh, there's been this tremendous earthquake. The epicenter must be literally under my house. It must be in West Los Angeles. And when they said it was in the North Valley, I found that so hard to believe because it was just so very, very frightening. But then what Mark described as happening in our neighborhood, certainly people kind of come outside and make sure that everybody is okay. And one other thing here at the Channel 5 studio, which might be the situation you're experiencing at home, if you look at the set of our 9 o'clock, just our stage here, very similar to our situation where books and vases and everything else. And isn't it funny how you feel? We were all so happy just moments ago to see one another.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
These pictures here, though, it's by far the most serious damage that we've seen so far. There was that freeway collapse in West L.A., but this one, you got to say to yourself, in this situation with so many roads or several roads collapsing, it's a good thing this quake didn't happen during the commute hour. Because
and it's a holiday today, which of course a lot of people, it does help the situation.
Literally could not walk in my apartment. I tried to stand up and you know, you want to go, I wanted to get the baby, and you want to go to also, you know, get underneath the dorm frame, as they always say, and literally stood up as my end table next to me went flying by me. I just went flying, and you just get knocked down, and then, you know, you're walking on all that glass and that kind of stuff, trying to find a pair of shoes. And as Sam said, as prepared as you are, you have a flashlight and everything on your bedside. The shake was so great in my place, the flashlight was on the other side of the room.
Right,
so just to find it, you couldn't find a thing.
Even though you know what to do, you know, logically you know what to do, when the earth starts moving like that so violently, I mean, it takes a while. You're so shocked by that whole thing that you don't, you know, you're not thinking right.
And what struck me about this one in particular was not only the intensity, but the duration. In other words, very often, particularly the swarm of quakes in West Los Angeles, by the time you felt them, particularly if they were early, you woke up and it was over. And this just seemed, I guess they were suggesting it was around 50 seconds or so. This just seemed to be the longest 50 seconds I can recall.
Of course, a lot of people are not even able to get us this morning. They won't even be able to turn on their TVs and get anyone. Most of them are listening to the radio. So, where the 14 interchanges with the 5 underneath there, and there are cars underneath the freeway. The 14, that section has collapsed. There are cars underneath, and she's told us that she does believe that people were trapped in those cars. You can see the cars on top that are heavily damaged. We're not sure what happened to the people.
But I just want to review some of what occurred during the morning. The earthquake struck Southern California, was reported to be a 6.6 Richter scale earthquake, not quite a major earthquake, but certainly big enough to cause a lot of damage, and damage it did cause. There are reports that 3 people have died since the earthquake occurred. We believe from what we've read that 2 of those were deaths caused by heart attacks, and the 3rd was a death that resulted because of damage or the collapse of one of the freeways in California. The earthquake occurred at 4:31 Pacific time. It was centered in the San Fernando Valley. It caused damage to any number of freeways, and traffic is at a standstill everywhere, with authorities saying, please do not take cars or trucks onto the roadways. A number of fires have been reported, 30 to 50 houses on fire in the community of Silmar, which is in San Fernando Valley, where the earthquake was centered. The Los Angeles airport has been closed as a precautionary device, and if you're planning to travel to Los Angeles, you better call and determine whether the planes will be flying. And if you're attempting to call relatives in Los Angeles, the phone lines, some of them are down, but the phone company in Los Angeles, in California, is restricting outside calls in order to keep the lines open for emergency purposes. And we're going to call in one of the officials, one of the executives of the Los Angeles Police Department now, Commander David Gaskin. Commander, can you tell us what's going on that we haven't already reported? Could you bring us up to date?
Well, what's going on right now is, of course, the City Police Department and Fire Department, as well as other emergency officials, are trying to make an assessment. Among the things that they're looking for are people in need, of course. but there's an assessment of major damage. You just reported on fires and the airport being closed. Those are things that happen in any earthquake-type situation. So that will continue for several hours. We'll continue to assess all the major facilities and structures of the city and government.
Commander Gaskin, as you're talking, we're looking at some live coverage of a number of bridges, highway bridges that have collapsed. And of course, that brings back the terrible memory of the San Francisco earthquake in which a number of people were trapped under collapsing highway structures. The Mayor Reardon, has said that one person has died on a highway, and we've heard reports that there were 2 other deaths elsewhere, a total of 3. Do you have any updated information about casualties?
No, our confirmation at this point is solely one individual that was killed.
Where was that?
Probably related to the earthquake on the freeway, and our information that was a Los Angeles police officer that has suffered damage and are closed in the city and greater county area.
And there's no doubt that your people had difficulty getting around and are still having difficulty in responding to all of the areas that need to be closed off, controlled, and to people who need help.
Yeah, as you can well imagine, the resources of police and fire will be stretched very thin initially as this assessment goes on and as they respond to emergencies.
Have you called in all off-duty personnel?
Yes, we mobilized the department. That means that we will have a split of all resources from the 12 hours, basically of day watch, and 12 hours of night watch. So we're bringing in off-duty personnel, and in the greater region, I can assume the same types of things are going on with other agencies.
And we're seeing pictures here from the southbound control room. Could you tell me once again? Southbound Interstate 5 in Sylmar, California. That's where this collapse occurred. Commander, maybe you could help out some of the people who might be watching.
There at the time?
Yeah, we were part of the stalking crew that were all in there when it happened.
Good. If you want to go in and take a look at this point, Greg, I'll move off to the side. Can you tell us where you were?
We had employees located throughout the whole store that were stalking at the time. I myself was at the front when it started to shake. And I think for the most part, everyone just kind of dove for cover. And then we called out for each other, and everyone seemed to be okay, and we all got out of the store as quick as we could because it was pitch black. We couldn't see anything, and we couldn't see what we were climbing over or not. But the smell of gas was very strong, as were the busted pipes and water that was all coming down, so everyone just had to get out.
Was this like the whole ceiling fall?
It looks like most of the ceiling and some of the structures down inside, as far as all the lighting fixtures and everything else was all down, as well as all the other products that were throughout the store. Seems to be down.
What was your name?
My name's Angie Walls.
Thank you very much. Were you inside also? Yes. Good. Could you tell us what happened?
Well, when the earthquake hit, I was on the phone calling home to see if everybody was okay. And as I was hanging at the phone, the earthquake started shaking, and the glass right here in the front desk was breaking. And I followed Frank, because Frank was going underneath the check stand, so I followed him, and I went under the check stand. When it stopped, I mean, there was just the roofing was on top of us. Everything is falling down. I mean, it was pitch black. We didn't know where anybody was at. It was very...
Blue exploded and took at least 5 homes with it.
Let me ask you,
Go ahead.
Bob, did this gas main explosion occur right after the earthquake, or was there a period of time when there was a fire and then it exploded? Because if there was a period of time first, perhaps some of those people got out of those homes.
It was a period of time. From what our understanding is, it was not readily, it wasn't like an instantaneous explosion. It took a little time, but it blew with tremendous force, and there you can see the graphic pictures showing exactly the kind of force we're talking about. The scary thing is that's not the only location, and as we pan over to the left, what's the location on that mobile home park? San Fernando Road, just above the 210 freeway. Let me pan over here to the left.
Is that the Olive View mobile home park?
Yes, that's right. And that's where we had a number of gas leaks, and those homes able to get out. Okay, we're coming up here on this broken overpass. Let me see if I get a shot in here.
The only good thing about this is
Charlie,
it happened early, 4:29, and on a holiday at that. Otherwise, the freeways, you know how clogged they can be. In this situation, we had one fatality at this intersection, somewhere in this region on one of the freeways that are down here on the 14. But you can imagine how much worse this could have been. So that's a stroke of luck, as it were.
It's also a stroke of luck in that families were together this morning, and so you don't have that sense of parents trying to get to their kids.
Look how close that one tractor trailer is to the edge there. You can imagine what a nightmare that is if you're driving along, you feel the earthquake, and you stop, and then when you get out, you see exactly what you're on the edge of there.
You want to talk about fate? That driver must feel extraordinarily lucky this morning.
You can also get a good gauge of the force of this thing by seeing, they're the reinforcing bars. You know how strong these things are, how they have to be built to earthquake standards in Southern California. And that gives you some idea of the magnitude. It just ripped this thing apart.
These seem very reminiscent of what we saw a couple of years ago in the Oakland earthquake.
Exactly.
In San Francisco.
And Vince is right. These people, obviously, they're going to be there for a long, long time. They won't be able to get out by car if they're between, of course, the two overpasses that are down. Jackknife tractor trailers all over the place.
Oh, yeah,
there's two in that shot.
As we take a look at these pictures, we want to remind you that you are watching live coverage of this morning's earthquake here on Fox News. We understand that Cedars-Sinai Hospital in L.A. is just being overrun with wounded. Apparently, a tidal wave of wounded is now walking into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in L.A. Other things to tell you that are closed: Los Angeles Airport shut down. There appears to be some kind of damage to the runways at LAX, though we can't confirm the extent of those damage.
Are we still high?
Also, Burbank Airport, there are some limited flights that apparently are leaving. The runways are not damaged at Burbank Airport, but there is some airlines before heading out.
Also, the DWP public health statement here, they say don't drink any water out of your tap today unless you absolutely have to. Boil it if you can, that is when you get electricity back. And they say if you work for the DWP, get to work, go to one of the areas in the San Fernando Valley, one of those substations there, if you can get in.
We're going to go back now to Chris Harris, who is on the ground near that gas main break. Where exactly are you, Chris?
We are just north of Rinaldi on Balboa, just south of Lorillard, if you're familiar with the Granada Hills area. And what we thought was that mini mall and shopping center that was on fire was actually not. It was a huge break, not only in the water main, but in the natural gas line. So here we have the bizarre sight of flames firing right up out of water on Balboa, north of the 118 freeway. There have been 4 homes lost here, 2 on the east side of the street.
Just southeast of where the 210 meets the 5. So you'll see this is all in the, very close to each other.
Now, is this a new fire, Jennifer?
We were over in the last. We have showed you this mobile home park already. This is one of 2 mobile home parks that is ablaze. They're about a mile apart from each other.
Now, what often happens, and I'm sure we've all talked about this before, but we need to reiterate, in a situation like this, you can get a small gas leak. Your pipe can just move even a 1/10 of an inch, crack, and allow a little bit of gas to get out into your house. And you flip on your light switch, and the spark from the electricity in the switch will ignite a fire like this and create a fire that has unlimited fuel because the gas, of course, is pouring into it. Now, we're not suggesting that if you don't smell gas, leave your gas alone. If you do smell gas, go to the side of your house and turn it off. There is a little bar there that you can turn sideways so that you don't have gas going into your house.
Another bit of advice, if you smell gas, good idea not to use electrical appliances, because that's exactly how some of these fires start.
Or to turn a switch or anything.
Turn a switch, there's a spark, and then there can be you know, an explosion because the natural gas catches fire. Obviously, you know, don't touch down lines or electrical wiring that may be exposed because of the earthquake. I mean, a lot of people don't have power on, but you don't know for sure, and you don't want to get electrocuted, so be careful in that regard.
Eric, I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment. We need to go out to Claudia Gomez, who's in Granada Hills, the site of where a road has buckled. Claudia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Barbara. Yes, I can, Barbara. We are in Granada Hills. We are at the intersection of Gothic and San Fernando Mission. What you are looking at right now is the 118 freeway, or what's left of it in this portion. The overpass at Gothic has completely collapsed. It's a pretty horrific sight. Twisted metal. There was a car that apparently was on this road when it went down at the time of the earthquake. Miraculously, the driver was rescued without serious injury. Residents here, I guess, took him to the hospital, and he was able to walk away from it. Miraculous enough. Residents who live here say they heard what sounded like a bomb when the freeway came down.
Claudia, we're looking at the 118.
The damage really, really is incredible. You can't see it from the angle down here, but the road is not visible anymore. The freeway is resting on the roadway.
All right, so which freeway?
Authorities have shut down the 118 freeway on this stretch of the road. We're standing right at the Havenhurst exit. It is shut down, I guess, on both sides of Balboa, according to what the authorities say, eastbound and westbound.
Okay, we're having a difficult time figuring out exactly which road it is we're looking at where the car is right now. Is this the 118?
This is the 118 freeway, yes.
Right,
the one that is crumbled is the 118.
The 118 freeway in Granada Hills, yes.
Okay, this, just point of reference, this freeway was built 10 years after the Somar quake. So it was built earthquake safe according to all the known standards at the time. And there you see now that the 6.6 earthquake has definitely caused severe damage to this freeway. And this was also built to alleviate the traffic on the 101, and now we're going to have major problems as they try to recoup from this, and also the 5 being shut down because of the 14.
What a you know, amazingly frightening situation for the driver of this truck, though. The car actually flipped over. And it's just miraculous, as Claudia was saying, that the person who was driving this car was able to walk away from this incredible situation.
Claudia, can you pull out a little bit, get the camera to pull out just a little bit so we can get a wider view, maybe get our bearings on where we are?
Yeah, I am down on the roadway here, and my cameraman is up on the freeway right now. I don't think he can hear me.
Oh, okay.
Next time I will be up there, I'll be able to tell him. But I wanted to tell you that when we were driving around this freeway to get to this point, the pillars holding the overpass had just completely crumbled, and in fact we had to drive underneath that, and it was a pretty scary sight. The pillars are barely standing, so it looks like that's another section of the overpass on the 118 could come crumbling down.
When you headed out that way, Claudia, did you see any fires? Tell us what it looks like out in that area.
It really is a horrific sight. When we were driving here, I counted probably about 10 fires. There was a major, major fire just west of here, if you keep following the 118. And residents who live here say it looked like a petroleum fire to them. I'm not quite sure if there's some sort of plant there or what, but huge, huge flames, major damage to houses in the area, roofs collapsed, brick walls down. The damage is tremendous. The smell of smoke and gas in the air right now, the clouds of smoke in the sky. Every single direction you look, north, south, east, and west, there is major damage.
This is just one of several areas where freeways have collapsed. I mean, we've seen the one in the West Los Angeles area along the Santa Monica freeway. There's that one on the 14 and the 5 interchange. You know, you talk about building freeways to earthquake specifications, but when you have a quake of this magnitude, I guess that all goes out the window. I mean, there's no way.
It's all relative to where it's centered, I guess. And then you see here the
road buckling. Look at that.
The road buckling and the Yucca Valley quake of a couple of years ago. Dave Lopez and I were out covering that, and you were out there, Eric, and the ground literally opening up between Dave and I. He was in the car and I was in the phone booth doing a phone report to Hal Fishman. And suddenly it started to shake violently and the ground opened up, and you can see that here where that car went in, it looks like the ground certainly opened up. It's a frightening
person
feeling.
who's totally lucky, and you know, maybe if the driver had been, you know, 5 feet ahead,
he'd have been past it.
Yeah. So
well, it's reminiscent of the San Francisco quake when that car was on the bridge and went into the
reporting just that the circuits are very busy. So if you're okay, really the best thing for you to do today is sit tight, boil your water, stay with friends and family, stay calm. In terms of the magnitude of this quake, it was 6.6 at 4:30 this morning. The folks out at Caltech are saying, look, once you get past the first hour, the chance of an earthquake of magnitude or an aftershock of that size really diminishes. So in terms of the magnitude of this quake, it was 6.6. We're now getting, what, John Beard, aftershocks in the neighborhood of the 5s at this
Several
point.
of those. As a matter of fact, let's go back to David Byrne and David Garcia at Caltech. I believe they have an update for us out there now.
Hi, John. We're getting a briefing now again by Dr. Kate Hutton with the latest information. She's explaining that they are studying the fault that caused the earthquake. Let's listen in.
In several ways. Area again, Jennifer?
But this is just south of the homes that I showed you that were burning north of the 210 freeway. This is actually southeast of the interchange of the 210 and the Golden State. This is the mobile home park I was talking to you about. And next to the mobile home park is a residential area, and some of those homes have also, those are also ablaze at this time. It's tough to tell you exactly the roads here. I believe I'm just near San Fernando Road. This is a mobile home park. There's two mobile home parks. There's one south of this as well, and again, there are many, many, many homes throughout this area. We did notice one portion of the residential area that was burning. It was about 10 actual homes, but what we're showing you right now, these are mobile homes. I don't know the name of this mobile home park. Perhaps we can get that name.
We've talked about how mobile homes are particularly susceptible to damage from earthquakes. I mean, most of them stand on 4 little supports. And when there's a quake, it can be knocked off, the mobile home typically is knocked off the support. And of course, the natural gas line is right underneath the mobile home. So when the home is knocked up on top of the line, it can break it, and then there's a spark, and then there's a fire. And some of the worst damage I've seen from quakes happens in mobile home parks.
And here's the other problem, and that is that with all the damage to the roads, it's tough for fire crews to get to their location, and a lot of them were having to hand crank their doors open because the doors were locked in. They're electric doors that use your garage door opener.
I had to do the same thing.
And you have to release the latch from the electric door opener, and so fire trucks are having a difficult time. By now, I'm sure all fire equipment is out of the buildings in their usual tactical position. But these fires are, as you can see, raging unabated at this point. We see very little fire equipment at this location.
I'm wondering if they can even get there.
Let's check out the
large span of the northbound connector to the northbound 5 off of the 14 also collapsed. So from when I first got on scene, I couldn't get over to this area right away. I was able to search to see if there's anybody over there. I didn't find anybody over there. And then I was told by civilians that there was individuals injured here at this scene, so then I immediately responded over this area here.
I understand that the woman that was in the car on just getting onto the 5 freeway was pregnant as well. Any word on her condition?
No, I was told by civilians on the scene prior to my arrival that she was pregnant, was transported by a helicopter to some facility. I'm not sure where. I was still, in fact, I'm still trying to make a route down to the Los Angeles area to get down to our command staff. But unfortunately, at this time, I don't think I'll be able to get down there just yet.
Phil, have you been able to get everybody that was injured out of this area?
Yes. All the persons that were here that were injured have been either taken or transported to area hospitals. We do not see any.
Sherry Hu live in the Eyewitness Newsroom. We should tell you in our continuing coverage of the L.A. quake that a small quake hit also right here in the Bay Area. According to Cal Seismographic Station, that one was registered as 3.5 on the Richter scale, hit near Lake Berryessa down the South Bay around 6:45 this morning. It occurred on the Green Valley Fault, according to a spokesperson. No reports of damage. And again, a strong earthquake has hit in the Los Angeles area, 6.6 on the Richter scale down there. About 4:30 this morning, damage is widespread. We're doing wall-to-wall coverage right now. We're going to switch you right back to an LA station covering the quake live.
It is just remarkable. I mean, it's a terrible situation where there have been fatalities here, but the thought of how terrible it could have been.
We saw a few minutes ago the parking structure, a large parking structure at Cal State Northridge.
Yes.
And had that come, say 10 o'clock in the morning, there would have been a couple of dozen people at the very least in that structure. As it was, we're hoping there were none. There would probably not be a reason for there to be anybody in there at 4:31 this morning. Let's go to Tricia back in the newsroom with some more information for us. Tricia?
Well, Caltech has been talking to us pretty much throughout the morning, and of course we've been having so many aftershocks. Apparently, Kate Hutton over at Caltech says that the actual rupture for this morning's 6.6 earthquake started under the town of Northridge.
Oh.
And she says that there have been 6 aftershocks since about 4:31 that have measured 4 points above, but this apparently began under the town of Northridge, this thrust fault, and that's why that the damage is so heavy that we've been seeing out there. You know, just because it is in the northern part of the San Fernando Valley. 6.6 earthquake at this point. We do have confirmed 2 dead so far. That number will go higher, unfortunately. And as you've seen from Bob Turner and Chopper 2, a number of homes have collapsed. In Studio City, a miraculous story that no one was killed there in the collapse of at least one hillside home. Numerous fires throughout the city. The freeway has collapsed at the I-5 and the I-14, the I-10 near Fairfax. In fact, the Santa Monica freeway has sustained incredible damage. We've been seeing those pictures throughout the morning. The freeway collapsed at the 118 at Balboa, LAX is shut down there, but I will tell you that we're getting word now that some flights, some limited flights, are coming into LAX. So part of that airport apparently is still shut down, and that's, of course, a major hub for the rest of the nation, and probably creating problems all across the country. But we understand that some flights are coming in, I assume, as officials begin to check the damage on the runways and decide whether or not it is safe there. We're looking at Sylmar here, an incredible, incredible sight. This freeway structure that has totally collapsed on itself, totally collapsed onto another part of the freeway. Joe, are you at Caltech? I know that Kate Hutton's been talking out there the last couple of moments.
We're at Caltech right now with Kate Hutton, as a matter of fact. We're going to pick it up. We've talked about a 6.6 earthquake at 4:31 this morning. The big question on everybody's mind is, does that mean we're going to get a bigger quake?
Okay, well, there's always a small chance that any quake is a foreshock to something bigger. But the chance is less than 5% at this point, and because we've had an example of activity in our history, in other words, the San Fernando earthquake was a very textbook aftershock sequence. We're hoping that this one is going to follow pretty much the same pattern, and there won't be anything larger than 6.6, but there certainly will be aftershocks, so I think people need to be prepared for a little bit of further damage over the next few days.
Well, we've already had aftershocks, haven't we?
Oh, yes, right. And we've had at least one above magnitude 5, and we've had a total of 5 that were magnitude 4 and greater. And we expect to see that continue over the next few days.
We're saying now we believe the epicenter was in Northridge, but the actual rupture zone where the intense energy was felt is much bigger. How big was that?
Oh, okay. Well, the fault runs apparently east-west through San Fernando Valley, and so basically from one end of the valley to the other, I think.
From one end of the valley to the other? Is the whole rupture zone, you think?
We expect to see the rupture zone to be about 10-15 miles long, and that's pretty much the width of San Fernando Valley in its northern part. So,
what happened here? We know about things along the San Andreas Fault where California is splitting and moving up and down the coast. What happened here in the valley?
Well, because there's a bend in the San Andreas Fault, there's a lot of compression in the LA Basin area, and the San Gabriel Mountains are basically being shoved up, and the Santa Monica Mountains are being shoved up to get out of the way. And this is on one of those thrust faults, which is involved in raising those mountains. We don't know exactly which fault at this point, but we know that that's the general tectonic character of the situation.
So basically the mountains are moving up and the valley is kind of contracting a little bit.
The valley would have contracted a foot or two, right.
Will we see that on the ground?
Well, probably not. If the fault breaks, if it turns out that there is a fault break at the surface, it will be localized in one area. But probably it's going to be sort of distributed over the whole valley area, so there won't be all in one person's backyard, for example.
Okay, so to recap again quickly, because I know you want to get out of the room. 6.6 at 4:31 this morning.
4:31 this morning.
Chances are slim that we're going to see anything big.
Park, a 34-unit apartment building that was apparently shaken so badly that the fire department is now forcing an evacuation at this location, asking everyone to get out as quickly as they can, remove what items they can, and then move on. Any more movement of the ground, any more shaking can bring this entire building down. We'll continue to show you some of the damage on this particular building as we talk to Rafael and Christina Rodriguez. Just describe where you were, how it happened for you.
Well, we were in the bedroom, and all of a sudden it just started shaking. The TV fell over, the dresser, everything just started going. The bed started moving, the glass, everything just started falling.
A 34-unit apartment building. Clearly people must have come out right away, started reacting to this. What was the scene inside of that apartment house?
Well, I mean, there was people hysterical, and everybody was just in there. A lot of people
were stuck. A lot of people were stuck
inside.
They couldn't get out. We had to kick doors in.
We're showing you pictures now of the side of the apartment building on the driveway where you can see that the building is so badly damaged. It's been completely buckled out. You've got cracks. You've got windows broken. What's the damage like inside? If we were inside one of these units, what would we be seeing right now?
It's terrible. The hallways are, I mean, it's...
Everything is buckled up. The walls are against other walls. There's glass all in the hallway. Windows.
Glass are all over the place, so you just can't even walk in the halls. It's so bad.
Holes in the ground.
Did all of this damage happen with the first round, or were the aftershocks a factor in this damage as well?
It was the first round. First round. Everything happened the first round.
It's a tragic situation. We're getting word that there may have been a fatality here. I can't confirm it. Now the firemen are going gingerly down. They've been inspecting the damage. They've got urban search and rescue teams on the scene, and a rescue.
Coverage of the very, very extensive freeway and fire damage now in the aftermath of the earthquake.
We should let you know that LAX was closed for 2.5 hours this morning as a result of the
fact that we're concerned not only with the people in Los Angeles, of course, but with everybody in the region. And we're urging everybody to please stay in a safe location and practice everything they've learned about how to behave in an earthquake.
I guess a lot of people felt that those highways, including the one we're looking at, was earthquake-proof, but this certainly denies that assumption.
Well, unfortunately, in an emergency situation like this, we're very sad when any major infrastructure damage happens. But of course, the mayor and my main concern is loss of life or injuries or anything like that. And we're praying that the people of Los Angeles remain safe. We're praying that the people, many people haven't been hurt and that their property is okay, and that we're going to be able to hopefully respond to this emergency as quickly as possible.
David, was City Hall affected by the quake? Was it damaged?
I haven't been able to assess the building yet. As you know,
Right now we're going to the 118, which as you can see has collapsed. Standing by there, Linda Moore. Linda, tell us about it.
Well, this is actually the Mission Hills area, and this is the stretch of the 118 that has collapsed. We've got about approximately a 2-mile stretch of freeway here that looks very much like this. And maybe we can walk a little bit towards the end here, and you can see there is one car that was caught in this. And I was told there were 1 or 2 people inside that car. They have been taken to a hospital, and we don't know the extent of their injuries. The street that this freeway collapsed on is Gothic. And this is the 118 portion right very near the 405, and a 2-mile stretch of the freeway has been shut down. And this brings back horrible memories for me of the Nimitz Freeway covering the San Francisco earthquake a few years ago. And a few of us were just talking about how...
This is Jeffrey Schaub back in San Francisco. We understand Governor Pete Wilson, who has declared a state of emergency in the LA area, is about to make an announcement. We are going to go to that now.
For I-5, the very strange thing is that everyone, of course, is craning their necks out the window to try and see anything that they can of the earthquake. And any time there would be a fire or smoke or any indication, suddenly you hear the oohs and ahs as people try to reach over the passenger sitting next to them and take a look at it. Once again, it seems very quiet. The freeway is uncharacteristically empty for this time of the morning. I remember during our own Loma Prieta earthquake, everyone kind of stayed indoors for a while. Everyone was very gentle with each other. It takes a while to get over that shock, I think.
Burbank Airport is operating normally from what you can see, Gary?
Well, from this point, I can see that there are a couple of American Airlines flights. There's a Reno Air flight moving around at the airport, which is unusual because Burbank is actually closer to the epicenter of the earthquake than Los Angeles Airport. But from what we have heard, Los Angeles Airport is still closed. I know that a couple of flights that were supposed to come in by 7:30 this morning were canceled by United Airlines.
Gary, how many fires did you see from the air again?
I would say probably a half dozen. There's a lot of smoke and there's some fog up here right now, so it was hard to get a good fix on it. I understand that there are 30 to 50 structure fires burning in the San Fernando Valley, and I understand that power is out also in that area, that several storefronts have collapsed, and we understand that there are at least 2 and possibly 3 deaths. One other interesting point is that apparently this earthquake is centered near the Silmar area, and that's, I believe, where the 1971 earthquake was also centered. So these people have had quite a bit of experience with earthquakes over the past 25 years or so.
Is the crew giving any specific instructions to passengers in terms of getting around Los Angeles as a result of the earthquake?
Well, they have advised people that Los Angeles Airport is closed, that transportation is difficult, that they cannot guarantee transportation, and they made that point to us as we got on the plane, that we were on our own when we got down here. We're outside now, and there's a heavy haze over the San Fernando Valley. You can see little wisps of smoke coming from a couple of different places. There is a roadway outside, which is almost dead quiet. Not very much traffic out here right now.
Very extensive freeway damage all over the Los Angeles Valley from what we're hearing, Gary, so it could be very difficult to get around today. We want to just update a little bit of what you said. The Los Angeles International Airport is partially opened at this point. Of course, that is considered the busiest airport practically in the world. And so there are definitely going to be some delays and backups, but some flights are now being allowed in and out of L.A.
Gary, any signs of damage at all at the Burbank Airport itself?
I don't see any cracks. I don't see any indication at this point. Again, the only visual indication that we got were some small fires burning. You could see little spots where flames were eating up a house.
Have been caused by ruptures in natural gas lines, and a number of cars have also exploded from caused by the house fires. We have heard a report from...
And just wait for this to progress out, and don't try to make any phone calls down there, because that may interrupt the ability of emergency services to get through to people in that area. We're going to continue with our live coverage from KTLA and KCBS, and we'll go back there right now.
And your name again?
Caleb, UDY.
Good. And?
Dave.
Dave, thank you. As you can see, this staircase just has fallen right from the second floor, ripped away from the wood, ripped away from the structure. The building is actually tilting. The building is tilting. The whole thing is fractured, and it looks like just a total loss. And again, this particular building is probably typical of many throughout Southern California, throughout Los Angeles. We're at Millbank and Hazeltine, and people are still standing around in shock. A lot of people out in...
News Center 4 coverage continues live from Southern California, now rejoining our sister station, KNBC.
As well between Santa Clarita and Acton on the 14 freeway. And we might mention we have a new closure. The 118 freeway is closed now between Tampa and the Golden State Freeway. The freeway itself is severely buckled, and the Gothic overpass between Woodley and Havenhurst has fallen onto Gothic Avenue, so that is closed. Northbound San Diego Freeway transition to the westbound 118, that is closed, and that's due to some structural damage on the overpass.
You're looking at a live picture right now. This is the Antelope Valley Freeway, the 14 freeway ramp as it transitions over to the southbound Golden State, the 5. Our camera at this point pretty much pointing west and swinging to the south, and it looks as though it was just connected and then disconnected, sort of the way...
The health facility has hospitals and clinics throughout the greater Los Angeles area. This one here in the valley in Granada Hills is a very large one. I've passed it many times. It's very busy. There's another hospital across the street, or nearby, as you said, that seems to be in much better shape.
We'd like to explain also, for some of the viewers across the nation, we are joined by the network at this point who are unfamiliar with some of the towns we mentioned here, Northridge, Granada Hills, Sherman Oaks. Without getting too specific, we'll tell you they're all a part of what we refer to as the San Fernando Valley, which is a part of Los Angeles. So we're talking about major residential and commercial areas here.
We're talking about millions of people and very residential areas that come into the city. We're told that there have been a lot of walk-in injuries of people coming in that have been hurt by flying debris, flying glass. You can see a tape of someone being treated at one of the hospitals. Again, Mike, to give people perspective who aren't familiar...
let me interrupt. Okay. I apologize. Linda, we're going to go to the network right now in a statement from Governor Wilson. Let's go to that.
FEMA, the federal emergency.
The car is headed eastbound and had just apparently traveled past the place on the freeway where the freeway collapsed. The collapse on the eastbound section of the freeway is certainly not as dramatic as the section on the westbound. We are going to try to get back over to the other side of the freeway so we can show you some other pictures in a little while. There is a storage area underneath that chunk of freeway, and it is totally collapsed over there. Now, Lou is showing you it now. Lou, can you just go down? We had talked about the storage, public storage underneath the freeway, and there is a picture of somebody's belongings in storage underneath the freeway. So we'll be back to you later live from the Santa Monica Freeway. Kent, Carla?
All right, just incredible, Laura. Thanks very much for bringing the live pictures to us. We will check back with you shortly. Meanwhile, we have something else to take care of.
Yeah, actually, we're feeling another aftershock right now, and
find out if the people up in the newsroom are feeling it. This one's pretty strong.
This is a fairly strong
yeah,
aftershock.
you can see the stylus. Chuck and Colleen, can you feel it?
Oh, absolutely, Kent and Carl. This is probably one of the strongest we've felt this morning, and you can see the needle there on the seismocam. We need to fill you in on some information. As we said earlier, Governor Wilson is on his way to survey the damage here, but in the meantime, he says he will sign a state disaster declaration this morning for the Los Angeles earthquake area. He says that he believes President Clinton will also sign one very quickly for federal declaration, making money available for people who have sustained any damage.
A couple of more reports. We have a report of a third trailer park on fire, Roxford, San Fernando Valley Road, next to an industrial complex. That's just what we were checking a moment ago. Also a collapse on the 118 freeway in Sylmar. Apparently the...
I think it's, minimal.
Judy, that was a brutal jolt when you first felt it, wasn't it?
It was terrible. Just personally speaking, it jolted me out of bed. All the pictures came crashing down onto the floor. And all week long, those of us who live out on the west side of Los Angeles have been having what they call a swarm of quakes. We've been feeling little, I don't know if they're related. They always tell you later, oh, that had nothing to do with the one you felt, and I could never understand that. But we've been experiencing a swarm of little quakes all week. So we were on guard, in a sense.
And Judy, we're seeing another example of what occurred along one of the highways in California, some very severe damage there.
It's interesting because this is a 6.6 quake, and they talk about a major quake, I think, being at 7 point. It makes you wonder what anything larger would be doing. This is very serious damage to the freeway system and to homes.
We have a report now, at least 45 homes have been...
Even the lower one is down, and the...
Like a parking structure, but we can't tell. We can see on top there are what appear to be parking spaces on top of it.
No cars.
No cars.
Mm-hmm. In fact, during the Whittier quake, one of the fatalities was a parking structure collapse.
Yeah. Bob Turr is up there, and he can give us a better explanation of what we're looking at. Bob?
Yes. What you're looking at is a parking structure. Now, go pan right, Marika. Sorry about that. Over here on the 10 freeway in West Los Angeles at just about Venice, there you can see the power of the earthquake. This is the 10 freeway. Both directions have collapsed down upon the surface street and down upon its foundation. The earlier shot you saw of the parking structure is at Kaiser Cadillac Medical Center, one of the auxiliary parking structures. There were cars in that structure at the time. However, we're not sure if there were injuries or any fatalities at that area. That is one of the employee and patient parking lots at Kaiser Permanente, located at Venice Boulevard. Now, look at this overpass right here, and there you can see, now we're going to panel this area. The smell of gas is quite strong, quite overbearing. We've had, as you saw graphically earlier on Channel 2, we saw a number of gas mains explode, taking with it homes and sometimes mobile homes. So as we flew over West Los Angeles and as we fly over West LA, we smell that gas. It's very important to turn your gas lines off if you smell gas and not to keep any electrical devices on.
Do you see any fires at all, Bob, in the West Los Angeles area?
There were a couple earlier, and most of them have been extinguished at this point. We're getting a little bit of feedback.
Bob, yes. Where we see the 10 has collapsed onto Venice Boulevard, and did it actually collapse down onto Venice Boulevard? And do you have any indication where any vehicles might have been trapped under there?
From the aerial perspective that we have, we can't tell whether or not any vehicles were trapped underneath. However, there literally are vehicles using some of the other underpasses under the 10 freeway. It does not appear as though it buckled sufficiently to actually trap any vehicles in that picture that you're seeing right now. I'd like to drop down. There were some other building collapses in the vicinity here. Let's drop on down here. Look down through there. I can't tell, but it appears as though no vehicles were caught here. However, there's another portion of the 10 freeway here at Venice Boulevard. Take a look at this. Here's a huge chunk that was taken out, collapsing this area. We understand one person received moderate injuries at this site. He was driving along when this portion of the freeway collapsed. He was bloodied, taken off to, was able to get out of the vehicle under his own power.
And we do not know yet what the death toll is. It's just beginning to be known. This is a major catastrophe for the city of Los Angeles?
Just in the last hour, I would say. It's now 8 o'clock, so it has been 3.5 hours since the earthquake hit, and just in the last hour have we begun to get pictures and reports from places where the damage has truly been severe. We've just now taken a look at the Santa Monica freeway there, where a couple of people have been rescued from cars that were damaged when the freeway collapsed. We've seen possible fatality, 1 or 2 at least, up on the Antelope Valley Freeway, which collapsed. There's an apartment building that pancaked at 9500 Reseda Boulevard, and there are people trapped underneath that pancaked apartment building. We have no clue yet how many people might be seriously hurt there. We've watched fires burning. We have a major catastrophe here in the city of Los Angeles, and this is a new picture from Newscopter 7.
This is the face of a dam, I believe, and maybe we go out to Captain Ron. He can tell us exactly what it is that we're seeing here. Is this the San Fernando Reservoir, Ron?
It sure is. It's just on the south side, or the downhill side of the old Van Norman Dam, the one that was severely injured during, I think it was the 71 quake. And what we're looking at, of course, is a large volume of water that is coming out just on the south side of this old Van Norman Reservoir. Now, initially we thought possibly the water and power may be venting or releasing some of the water out of the San Fernando Reservoir. However, as we come along here, take a look right next to the building, and it looks like this water is coming straight up out of the cement. There's a very high pressure that is doing this, and we've been watching this for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, initially thinking they were just releasing some of the water out of the dam, but when we got over here, it appears that there is a huge water main that is broken here. It may be the source of this water may be out of that San Fernando Reservoir. We can't tell, but there are some people.
We're going to walk this way. Jim, you've got to come this way so we can go around the post, because we've got a cable here. But you can see, as you look over here, the entire stairway climbing up there collapsed totally. And there is obviously a major collapse down a little bit farther. And if we can get around to the front, if we can get through these bushes, we can show you a little bit more of what has happened. Jim, if you'll pan up, you can see that this is where the stairs were that led up to the 4 levels of this parking structure. It is, everything that we are seeing today is very reminiscent of 1971, only worse. And it is particularly frightening because these are large concrete structures that were never supposed to collapse. Now, I can't hear you right now in the studio.
Well, we're just amazed by the amount of devastation.
Okay, now I've got it. I'm sorry. I had lost my IFB for a second. I was hearing nothing. But it is truly frightening, because I don't know when this was built, but it certainly isn't that old. I mean, this is post-71.
Sure. And as we watch these pictures, once again, you know, you're struck by what might have happened if this quake had occurred, you know, after people were awake, when they were using the freeways, when this parking structure might have been full of people.
Well, here, we're going to walk around while we're talking. We're going to try and walk around to the front of it so that you can get a little bit better view from the front side of this building. Well, that's the thing. No question that happening at 4 in the morning or 4:30 in the morning was infinitely better. In 1971, I lived in Granada Hills and thought that truly that the end of the world had come, and this was even worse.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people felt that way this morning.
Yeah,
That's just incredible.
Look at the way these the concrete, and this is reinforced concrete, steel reinforced concrete. Look at the way it is bent. It just sort of collapsed into itself. And another thing I should mention, between the smell of leaking natural gas and the smell of fire, the air is just filled. It's almost a stench. Everywhere you go, it's the smell of leaking gas or fire.
Well, I hope that doesn't mean that pretty soon you're smelling that gas right where you are.
Not at this point. It was mostly, I smelled it much more in Sherman Oaks, and I think the gas company probably has a pretty good handle on it. You know, there's always going to be some residual scent even after they've gotten it turned off.
Marta, what were the roads like, and what things did you see on your way to Northridge from Hollywood this morning?
Well, surprisingly, the roads were pretty good. I didn't see any big cracks in the roads. I mean, there are some, but we didn't run into any serious road problems. we did make a couple of stops. We saw houses that are just devastated, absolutely devastated, walls that have fallen down, patio roofs that have collapsed, buildings, all of the things that you've seen up on Ventura Boulevard where the windows are blown out. I mean, it's just terrible. It's just it's unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. You know, it's like the city has been hit with one thing after the next. First the fires and now this.
That's the report we seem to be getting from each area that we visit, Marta. We're going to go to Jim Newman now, who's talking to us on the phone. But, Jim, have you been in the downtown area this morning?
Barbara, I took a tour around downtown Los Angeles just a few moments ago to find out exactly what was happening in downtown L.A. I got to tell you, it looks pretty good right now. The facade of some older buildings have crumbled from the basic structure and have fallen onto the pavement. Of course, there's a power outage, and some of your major hotels are feeling the effect of that with some overnight guests. It's a holiday in most of downtown Los Angeles, other than the trading, which is going on here at the present time at the Pacific Stock Exchange. Many areas are off today for the Martin Luther King birthday celebration. And because of that, we see fewer and fewer people in downtown Los Angeles. Now, the Pacific Stock Exchange did open for trading at its normal hour at 6:30 this morning. Most everybody was here, but there was no elevator service, and the building still continues to operate on emergency power only. Emergency power only. Now, that could be one reason that we do not have an audio line here for the Pacific Stock Exchange at the present time. But as you can see in the back...
18. Good grief. Yeah. Well, we understood that it was closed down, and that's the reason, clearly. This looks like a three-section break there.
It's actually, Charlie, give me a right pedal here so I can shoot. Yeah, right pedal, because it's actually buckled right here also.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Several areas on the 118.
I know it's hard to coordinate exact location.
This is the 118, and it's east of Balboa. I can't give you the cross street. I can't tell it at the moment.
If we get down close enough, I think we could probably see an off-ramp right down there. We can give you that in just a few seconds. Might take a minute, though.
Now, it's buckled and dropped. Why, I would not want to be in that area. I don't think it's come down to the ground, but it's right over that street where those houses are right there.
And unlike the 14 and the... Well, there is a car, looks like.
There's something there. Charlie, come on around to the left here so we can look down in that freeway. There's either a emergency vehicle or something underneath there I can't see. There's people walking around on top of it.
Once again, you are watching live coverage from Fox News. We are reporting the aftermath of this 6.6 earthquake. You are now looking at the 118 east of Balboa, where several sections of this particular highway have collapsed and buckled. There does appear to be a couple of emergency vehicles on the scene. And this is what we know at the latest. The Red Cross is reporting 25 deaths at this point. That is not confirmed, but that is what they are reporting. The earthquake, 6.6 magnitude, the epicenter of the earthquake.
Also, again, our concern is the rupturing of gas lines. And for those who lack either the knowledge or the equipment to turn off their own gas, if they smell it, they would do well to get themselves and their families away from their structures. We don't want them, though, out in the streets.
Well, that sure is good advice. Governor, I'm kind of curious, what happens when the phone rings at bedside? I guess it rang at your bedside, and someone says, Pete, there's been an earthquake. What do you do? What's the first thing you do?
First thing you do is call the Office of Emergency Services and set things up and establish the lines of communication.
And that's it. Then you put your clothes on, I guess, and go to the office.
You put your clothes on and go to the office, or, as in this case, get ready to go to Los Angeles. We have got a National Guard plane that is warming up, and I think we will be on our way down there within the hour. We need to find an airstrip where we can come down. LAX and Burbank are both closed as a precaution.
Well, Governor, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope we'll be able to contact you later today after you've surveyed the damage. Thanks so much. I know you're busy, and we appreciate it very much.
From Channel 7 News.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Sydney Kohara in the Channel 7 newsroom. You have been watching live coverage of the earthquake devastation from Southern California. To update you, that quake happened at about 4:31 a.m.
The first quake could bring a lot of things down, but it also weakens the structure, and an aftershock, even a mild one, even a 3 or 4 pointer, could bring down the entire building or freeway, as you can see here.
We're amazed that those cars are still driving under there. Of course, a lot of the freeways, we just got through naming several freeways that are closed, several interchanges, so it's going to be tough getting anywhere today. It's best just to stay home. There's a long list of them. I guess if you really got to go there, you're willing to drive under something like this, but all you have to do is look to your left or right a little bit and see what can happen. I think that would stop me.
It seems like a tremendous risk. It certainly does. Lee, are you catching the underpass over there where the car's driving through?
And there's they're just going. Looks like
I don't know if you're still able to
traffic
hear me. We have lost power on our cell phone, so I'm not able to hear you anymore.
All right, I was trying to call in earlier on a lot of the cell phones aren't working because the powers don't have power.
We have some residents standing by here. Let's talk to them and find out what they heard. You live nearby.
Yeah, we live right here on Haven.
And as this 4-foot section of concrete was lifting up on the Santa Monica Freeway, we had a Wall Street Journal delivery truck and a driver who was probably on his way to work, which smashed into the concrete wall. Imagine, if you will, driving at 55 miles an hour on the freeway and literally seeing the freeway lift before your very eyes. We understand that the driver is in serious condition, sustaining some serious head injuries. We see a lot of damage to the windshield, obviously.
Point. We are keeping an eye on things. We will keep a tally for you. It's a grim tally, but we will keep an eye on what's going on there. But meanwhile, just if you can look through the static when it's possible, drink in that picture, because it just shows how extensive damage has been in a widespread area of Southern California. And as we've been seeing this morning, Carla, this is damage that was felt as far away as Las Vegas, San Diego, and Bakersfield and Santa Barbara.
Well, you know, they were talking over at Caltech a little bit earlier of a slip of 3 to 4 feet. And this was a shallow quake 10 miles below the Earth.
Section of freeway, possibly a mile-long section of the 10 freeway, both eastbound and westbound, right across the way, is going to have to be torn down. That's the only way they're going to be able to repair this kind of damage. I'm Carol Lynn reporting live from the 10 eastbound freeway at Fairfax. Back to you. Okay, we should also point out, too, that the 10 freeway is really, there are 2 spots, not one, that have been affected. One there is at the Fairfax-Washington Boulevard area, also at Venice Boulevard.
You're looking at a water main break, one of several reported today and caused by the earthquake in Southern California. Meantime, we're going to go to Barbara Wilkes from the Red Cross, who is on the phone, and we understand, and this is good news, that the number we had earlier of some 24 people killed is in dispute. That apparently was misinformation. Barbara, what's the story?
Yes, that figure was given out erroneously and attributed to us. We're not sure where that came from. Red Cross is not responsible for keeping that statistic, so it's not a valid number as far as we're concerned.
Barbara, what are you, as the Red Cross, concentrating on at this point? Where have you dispatched people?
We have the damage assessment teams in the valley now, traversing.
At 4:31, Southern California felt a 6.6 earthquake. It was centered in Northridge, south of the 118 freeway. As you can see from the pictures on your screen, extensive damage, and was felt far north of Santa Barbara and Bakersfield, all the way down to San Diego, east to Las Vegas. And there have been at least 6 aftershocks above 4.0, and actually, since we got this report, we felt another one, which I'm sure has to be at least a 4.0.
This reminder, as Carla's talking about aftershocks, we have been told, we've already heard this morning, we should expect more of them in the hours, days, and perhaps even week ahead, because an earthquake this strong is going to produce some relatively strong aftershocks as well. Right now, let's go to our...
It just dropped straight down, and then there was just a big cloud of dust after that.
I understand there was a problem with natural gas in this area.
Yeah, correct. The Kaiser Permanente building was leaking natural gas. The maintenance from this hospital, it seems that they've shut it off, so there's not much gas leak.
Okay, and very quickly, tell me the nature of the injuries that have come into your into the Granada Hills Hospital today.
Basically, it's abrasions,
chest pains,
and some few broken bones.
Okay, so fortunately, Mike and Linda, the Kaiser Permanente Hospital apparently had no one inside at the time. It appears to be a complete loss, and this the picture really, we're getting an aftershock right now, actually, and we're watching.
We're feeling it also,
Harvey. The building
Harvey.
is actually starting to take a look at this.
Yeah, here we're feeling it now. You felt it before we did.
Shaking our desk. There's the seismo cam looking at the seismic activity. We are getting a jolt. We have had 6 or 7 of magnitude 4 or greater. since the quake at 4:31 this morning.
All right, Bob Turr is in Chopper 2 over Pacific Palisades along Pacific Coast Highway where there has been some landslides. Bob.
Morning again. I'm Jeffrey Schaub here at Eyewitness.
On Pacific time this morning. So far, we have received a confirmation of 3 deaths overall in Southern California. That coming just moments ago here on CNN from Governor Pete Wilson. Leon?
Now, earlier this morning, well, severely damaged. Fortunately, at the time the earthquake occurred, we understand that there were no serious injuries at all in that facility.
Also, a mobile home community at the 210 and the 5 in this area today, Cal State Northridge. We've seen pictures and reports of students, people camping out, afraid to go back inside until the buildings are checked.
At the Burbank Airport, where the windows were blown out of the control tower. It sounds as though the fire department has been able to get a handle on a number of the residential fires that were in the Sylmar area. And there's still some concern in Sherman Oaks, though. A couple of very big business district fires broke out, and those have caused a lot of problems for people in that area. Once again, it is lucky, as Frank mentioned, that this was not at a very busy time of day. It was a holiday before a lot of people had hit the roads and the downtown areas.
Okay, just to recap, 4:30, a 6.6 quake. At this point, there are 3 deaths and numerous injuries and a lot of damage. Right now, we want to go back to KTLA News that is covering the earthquake live. Here's their report.
So in spite of the looks of things there with the shattered glass and kind of a makeshift setup, everything's going well there. They're operating as normal?
Right, yes.
And I guess they probably don't want us to hang around the control tower a very long time, huh?
No, we'll be
Are they going to wave you away?
For those of you that are waiting for word on what's going on at LAX, we understand that the south side of the airport, would you repeat that again, Caroline? Which side is closed? The south side is closed. They have reopened the north side, so basically they have the runways that are available on the north side available to take off and land. Regardless of what information I just gave you, plan on delays.
Yeah,
plan on it being very slow. Plan on being...
The center of it has just buckled. The whole thing has come through. Some of the students who were around here told me that last year this parking structure had some problems because they were told that the whole structure was what they believed to be sinking at the time, and they couldn't park here at that time. And now that this earthquake has struck, this is one of the structures here on this campus that we have noticed has been most heavily damaged. We have some of the students who were in the area at the time here to talk to. If you guys gentlemen want to come over here. One of the students here is from Florida. This was his first experience with an earthquake here in Southern California. Tell me what happened this morning and what you felt.
All I know, it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and everything started rattling. And all I heard was the roof, like almost as if it was caving in. And I was real afraid. I was real scared. So I just got up under the desk. It was a very frightening experience.
Now, all of you guys live in campus housing, just about a block or 2 from here. Any damage there?
No, not really. It just felt like about 100 elephants running through my bedroom. And then we woke up, checked to see if everybody was all right, then we just tried to get out of there. We were just really afraid.
So everybody was able to get out as far as you can tell?
Yeah, my TV and everything was just thrown across the room, VCR. But I was just lucky I had my life still, because my room's just really shaking. All our clothes and all that. Everywhere, all the stereos, clothes, TVs, everything is all over, scattered everywhere.
You're not from around here, so this is the first time you've experienced one of these. Did you know what to do?
I remember once someone told me just to get up under the doorway. That's what I did, but then I got afraid, and then I went and hid up under the desk. It was just too much.
Okay, luckily, as far as we can tell, most of the students from this area...
Correct. She was removed with the tailgate of a truck, and brought her down this way to a helicopter and landed over here to try and get her over here. And that's when this officer came rolling off here. It was about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour after the actual earthquake. That happened, much later.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. That was Mark Soudert. He is one of the witnesses, one of the heroes, if you will, someone who helped rescue some of the victims out here. But again, as you can see, tremendous damage here. 14 southbound collapsed
Temescal Canyon Road because of rock slides there. And, of course, California Highway Patrol and all of the local police agencies are asking that if you could stay off the roads, absolutely do so. You have no real reason to be on them right now. And, of course, a lot of people taking the time off, for, as you and Gene have reiterated, for the holiday. And that is good news. I also want to tell you about some building damage. There is plenty of more building damage. And all this coming in, but right now, just some preliminary things. Building damage in the 9500 block of Reseda, an apartment building, which showed the three-story building there where one apparently has collapsed. We have reports of some possible damage at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica. We don't know how serious that is, but we know that folks are being called to help evacuate some people out of there. Also, Kaiser Permanente Hospital at Devonshire and the 405, the San Diego Freeway, reports of 3- and 4-story parts of the building collapsing, and they're looking in there as well. Also, building closures is right now that doesn't necessarily...
In the San Gabriel Mountain Range, we're still going by the theory that, that basically we have the San Fernando Valley being squished, as it were, between those two mountain ranges. We just got one briefing from a seismologist who's going up into a helicopter to kind of survey the area, as we have been from Newscopter 7. But now we're going to go to Dr. Kate Hutton from Caltech and get the latest from her as well.
At 4:31 this morning, we're still calling it preliminary magnitude 6.6. We have a preliminary assessment of what happened here. This is a cross-section of the area showing the San Fernando Valley and the San Gabriel Mountains and the Santa Monica Mountains, and some of the major faults. This is the fault where the 71 earthquake happened, and this is what we call the Santa Monica thrust system underneath the San Fernando Valley. And it appears that this, although the main shock occurred very close or on the Santa Monica thrust system, that the fault actually was an offshoot that went up toward the San Gabriel Mountains from beneath Northridge. Okay, so we're calling this a south-dipping thrust fault. In other words, this section slid up compared to this section over here. This is our preliminary assessment of what's going on. Many of the aftershocks are up in this area and even back here in the San Gabriel Mountains.
Are there any larger implications for all this?
Well, at this point, we really can't, we don't have any idea. We can only give out the generic probability that any quake is a foreshock, and that's about 5% or 1 chance in 20. We're not even as good as the Weather Service in making predictions.
I checked it myself with the flashlight. I went through the building, screamed, tried to listen if anybody there screaming or something. So I didn't hear any noise. And I asked security, says there's no security, and the building was secured, and it's only office building. It's
totally empty is what we heard. Thank God. Thank God.
It's probably because of the time of day that it happened. So, Eric, in answer to your question, the people that are here waiting, they're waiting so long just because they can't handle all of the people that have come in a timely manner.
All right, Michelle,
excuse me just 1 second. Yeah, what is that, sir?
Wouldn't believe what I've seen since 5 a.m. coming here. I mean, I thought I was hurt bad, and just one after another, it's just worse and worse. When daylight came, it got even worse, and people realized that they better get medical attention. And I mean, I've been here.
We want to go to Gary Kauf now. He's going to bring us the latest on one of the very, very terrible freeway disasters in Los Angeles in the aftermath of the quake. It is the interchange of the 14 and 5. Gary, do you hear us?
Gary? Okay, I guess obviously we're having a little bit of some problems here.
You can see, though, just what a mess it is.
One CHP officer, one LAPD police officer, a motorcycle officer, was apparently killed. That is his body there with the yellow tarp over it. Apparently, he was driving very early in the morning. There were no lights on as a result of the power outages, and we believe that he basically just drove right off the edge of the freeway.
You had a good overview with some of these pictures now that you're seeing. This is an interchange of two southbound sections of freeway, the Antelope Valley.
As a matter of fact, if you look at this, this is the picture from Cal State Northridge where there is radiation inside this building. So that is concerned. They're concerned about a radiation leak, and the building itself has been evacuated. Let's go back live to KNBC TV.
Here at Channel 4 Newsroom.
This is a building at Cal State Northridge. As you can see, the fire is on the upper floor of the buildings at Cal State Northridge. We haven't seen any fire units on the ground around the building, but maybe as we pan back, but so far we haven't seen any. There are a number of fires throughout the... Okay, now I understand that we do have Lieutenant John Duncan on the phone of the LAPD. Lieutenant,
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you tell us anything about this fire at Cal State Northridge?
No, I can't. I don't have any specific information on that at the present time. I know that there's a number of fires that the fire department are trying to deal with. But I haven't received an update on that one myself.
Can you give us an idea of what you're getting, the big picture here? We're seeing damage all over the area. Do you have a comprehensive list of what we're seeing?
Well, you know, I don't have a comprehensive list other than the significant damage, of course, to the freeways that we've been talking about most of the morning. 14 freeway is closed out San Fernando Road. 10 freeway is down at Fairfax. 118 is closed at Balboa. There seems to be some problem on the South 405 at Rinaldi. And then the southbound 14 at the 5 freeway.
Lieutenant, the accident that occurred out on the 14...
Recent construction.
Doctor, would you say that many people who have weathered an earthquake in the past in the San Fernando Valley, maybe a 6-point earthquake, because it was farther away, now they're finding that they may have a lot more damage in their homes?
Well, this quake did happen, well, the San Fernando earthquake happened, the epicenter was in an unpopulated, fairly unpopulated area underneath the mountains, and then the fault ruptured up into Sylmar. So there was damage at the base of the mountains in Sylmar, San Fernando. The people south of that in the valley were a little bit removed from the activity. But in this case, the epicenter is right below Northridge. So this whole populated area of the San Fernando Valley was very close to this fault. So there will be more damage in this earthquake in the main part of San Fernando Valley than there was.
I got another helicopter.
And it's also much more populated now than it was.
As Dr. Kate Hutton is talking about more damage in the San Fernando Valley, it appears Captain Ron has certainly found some.
The freeways at that time that were being built fell down up in the northern San Fernando Valley, but now, you know,
get you back to the
5 and the 14 connect. The 14 collapsed at that point.
Okay, we're going to dump out of this news conference. You got the main thrust of what was going on there at Caltech as we are learning more of the technical items, the technical story of how this earthquake did the damage that it did. But I think the real story is the picture that you're seeing here, which is in Northridge.
Captain Ron, we're looking at, I believe, the Northridge Mall and the parking structure, which seems to have pancaked. Seems to have collapsed.
Yes.
Well, I see some emergency vehicles there. Once again, we're hoping that because of the time in the morning that there wasn't much traffic in this area, and perhaps we'll get away lucky again on this structure as well. But the magnitude of our luck is just beginning to sink home, too, as we look at these parking structures all over the north end of the valley, which have collapsed on themselves, and it just shatters you to think what might have happened had there been people just arriving in cars or just getting out.
And Ann?
Yes, we're talking to you, Ron. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're up with Van Nuys, and you can imagine it's quite busy. This is the Northridge Fashion Center, and what we're looking at here is one of the parking structures that has completely been destroyed. Now, there's major damage to the Sears building, but probably the worst that we see out here in this fashion center by far is the Bullocks. And we'll pan over there right now, and we'll give you an idea of just exactly what used to be Bullocks. This building has completely collapsed. The walls here on the west side have fallen down. You can look directly into the store itself, and there's just major damage. I'm sure that this building is completely gone. And as we look throughout this fashion center, we can see cracked columns and windows broken everywhere. But by far, this Bullock's Fashion Center is the worst that we've seen by far. Now, earlier we were showing that there are a lot of officials out here that are watching this thing, and hopefully there's nothing hazardous that is out here that is leaking.
Yeah, you can see some folks that are over there close to that one hopper car that spilled the white material, but of course it's the tank cars that we would really be worried about here. And in any other circumstance, you would have a major response here by environmental cleanup crews and everything else to make sure that this is not something toxic. We don't know that. But in this circumstance, with so much damage all over the place because of the earthquake, it's impossible for all those crews to get to a location like this because they're dealing right now with life and death situations in so many collapsed buildings and parking structures. But they're on the Southern Pacific Main Line tracks. They're just south, I would assume. Is that just south of the Northridge Fashion Center?
Yes, that's just south of Nordhoff, and if we can pan just a little to the left, or actually right in the center of our screen, that's a Best store that's on the south side of Nordhoff, just west of Tampa. And as you can see, the entire back side of this Best store has collapsed, and even part of the roof has collapsed out here, right where the train derailed.
Ron, I was struck to see what happened to those railroad tracks. If you pan just over there, you're a camera person.
It's just a little higher.
At one point, the tracks actually have sort of bobby pinned. They've pinched together, and then they're wide again and pinched together. And when you imagine the kind of force that it takes to bend steel that way, it's very sobering to look at that train track.
And of course, that's reflective of all the damage that I'm seeing in this immediate area.
And there's a big spill of something, one of those tank cars you were talking about, Gene, right there to the left.
Yeah, it has definitely spilled its load, at least one of those tank cars, and it's fortunately it's not flowing anyplace. It's sort of reservoired there in that little gully next to the train tracks, but we do not know what sort of material is there. I see some people walking around. Is that the Fire 5, the fellow that got out of the Fire 5?
No, he just took off, so that would be some of the officials, hopefully train officials, that are looking at this thing right there. But it is corralled, and by the fact that they're walking that close to it is good news, hopefully, because if it was a real hazardous material, then they probably wouldn't be that close to it.
Indeed, and we see some spectators there on the wall just to the south, too, and they're looking at it, and they seem to be all right. So hopefully this is nothing toxic, and I think from our viewpoint here and your viewpoint, we can see that it probably is not.
Your point was an excellent one, though. We've looked now in the course of the last couple of hours at a dozen major tragedies.
Yes.
You know, major problems, and we always say, you know, in the event of an earthquake, don't expect emergency people to be able to get to your neighborhood maybe for a couple of days. Well, this is why, because we have just a vast amount of severe damage and people trapped underneath buildings and spills on railroads and freeways that have collapsed, and it's really well, it's
one of those circumstances. Where do you start first?
You just,
Where do you start first? And of course, where you start first is where there is a threat to life.
That's exactly
and those are the folks that are trapped or injured in buildings that have collapsed. That's where they are starting first.
And that's where we've seen them.
If it hasn't collapsed in your neighborhood, it's going to be a while before they get there.
And so the water power and railroad car problems are not getting the immediate attention because we're still saving lives. Art Rascone is at a hospital in the valley. Let's let him take it away. Art.
Over here at the Granada Hills Hospital, this is the Kaiser Emergency Permanente place. There are about 24 people standing outside of this hospital. They have not been able to receive medical attention. In fact, this hospital is calling for extra doctors to come to this area. They've had to evacuate the inside of the hospital, portions of it, the bottom floor especially, because there are about 2 inches of water around the floor of the hospital. As well, we have several of the people out here. You mind if we talk to you for a moment, sir? Would that be all right? Russell, why don't we come on over here and explain your situation.
Well, we were sleeping, and all of a sudden our apartment started shaking, and we just jumped up, and we couldn't see anything. It was too dark, and we started running towards the frame of the door, and we just stood there for a while until it kind of stopped, and we ran out of the apartment in front of the building.
Okay, obviously you're injured. Looks like you have some cuts on the faces. Have you not been able to get medical help?
Not yet. We're waiting still to get in because they take in the most, the emergency cases.
Yeah.
We don't even know what hit him. It was too dark.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good luck, okay? If you look around...
Complex, it is now 2 stories. The first level has totally collapsed. And this unit here is just representative of the units that you will see from here all the way to the back. There are 4 units just like this. They say this complex was built in the 70s, so it's maybe a little over 20 years old. Again, it is the Northridge Meadows Apartments, and it is Reseda Boulevard. Hundreds of people now standing outside waiting to find out what has happened to their friends, their neighbors. These are the people you see standing outside. Those are the people who are living on the 3rd and the 2nd floor. The residents here tell me that the stairwell collapsed, everything collapsed, so they had to come out of this apartment complex. Most were using makeshift sort of ropes with blankets tied together and fire hoses, and they climbed down that way, and that is how these people escaped. At this point, we have no confirmed fatalities at all. As I say right now, the effort is just to reach the people who are still alive and who they can speak to at this point.
Do we know?
It's just a terrible, terrible situation here, really. This has to be the worst disaster that we have seen so far this morning, because it is still so unknown
Linda,
how many bodies are down below.
Do we know that anybody got out safely from that first level?
No. We have not gotten any confirmed reports that anybody has gotten out safely. However, we have actually heard people screaming out, talking to the fire crews and saying, yes, I'm here, I'm okay. And so they're trying to reach those people. So we do know for a fact that there are people alive. But we don't have any calculation on how many are alive, how many are dead, and how many may have been trapped down here. And it could be hours before we can find that out.
It seems that the mood there is fairly calm, that people are just quiet and waiting. There doesn't seem to be any kind of panic. Is that how you would describe the situation?
It's true. It's very eerie. It's very quiet. People here are really still in shock. There's no other way to describe it. Many of the people have cuts or bleeding from their faces themselves, and they are in shock. I think part of the reason why you're seeing calm is many of the people who escaped are the residents who lived on the top floor and the second floor. Those who lived on the bottom floor are still trapped inside, and so we don't have a lot of people who have arrived yet to this location looking for loved ones or friends, because we're just now getting this information out to the public.
How many units on that first floor? Do we know?
I don't know. I really, you can't tell. I mean, look, if you can look at it here, you can't tell. I have not been able to contact the manager of the complex, but there would be, between this unit and the 5 others that have collapsed identical to this, I would guess probably close to maybe 70.
Oh, my
Scores
God.
of people.
Maybe 70 units.
Now,
and from what the residents tell me, that most were occupied.
Linda, a little bit earlier we saw an elderly couple kind of wandering in their robe and pajamas and then being pointed to a certain direction by one of the firefighters. Have they set up a place where some of these residents can go in that area?
No, none of that has been arranged yet. Obviously, the priority at this point is just to try to save the people who are still alive down there. That's the priority.
Are there any kinds of dogs helping out, or is it mainly the firefighting?
Died from heart attacks, presumably related to what was going on.
But just looking at the pictures that you're seeing right now, you get an idea of just what a strong jolt this was that struck. We want to bring you some live coverage now from Los Angeles via KTLA, so we'll listen in there.
I thought we were dead.
So did I.
I thought, this is it.
And all I could think of was we're together, we love each other, and that's...
And then when the shaking stopped and I realized that we were still able to move, and we scattered about and got our stuff and got the hell out.
Thank you so much for talking to us. I know, and we need to get people out of here because the gas leak is pretty bad. Again, we are at 4474 Woodman Avenue. There is a major gas leak on the back of the building. So if anybody, we've been trying to call the fire department. We're trying to get people out of here. People are still trying to get some of their things. That is the managers. That is the one. That used to be the 3rd floor. Again, I don't know if you can understand. The whole building has buckled underneath one entire floor. They're trying to get some things out of the building. But again, we tried to turn the gas up front, and that came off. But it's the gas in the back that we're concerned about. It's a major leak. All the cars under the building are gone. There was one person down underneath the building, and when you come back to us later, we're going to have to move our cables to show you that. But again, it is pretty incredible. We're at 4474 Woodman Avenue. I am Christina Gonzalez live, and let me show you before we go, since we can be here now, the apartments over here, once again. And there is a young lady just kind of looking at her apartment. I don't think she wants to be bothered right now, but you can see what you're looking at used to be a 2nd floor of a building. The 1st floor is gone. The cars underneath are gone. We are walking you through 4474 Woodman Avenue, and the smell of gas, pretty incredible. People pretty much in shock. If you look to the left, Patty, over here, you can see that underneath there used to be a laundry room. And we're going to try to get you down to what used to be a laundry room. And you can get an idea. That used to be a room underneath. The laundry machine still standing barely. But that whole floor has disappeared. And I'm trying, and again, bear with us because we are trying to run cable all the way. There are, and we're getting kind of close to where the gas is, so we're not going to be able to go much in there. Take a look. And again, you're looking at what used to be the 2nd floor. It is now at 1st floor level. The 1st floor is gone. The underground garage is completely gone. That used to be the laundry room.
Just stunned.
Diana, is your parents...
Linda, are you there?
Okay?
Linda?
Yeah.
Can you maybe talk to some of these people?
Yeah, this is Diana here. Diana, is this the house that you lived in, your apartment?
Yeah.
Right there? And are these all the things now?
All my stuff is out here, and I can't find my wallet.
Okay, all right. Can you describe for us what happened during the quake, and how did you get out?
We got out through the balcony right here, and I didn't realize we were on the floor, because we live on the second floor. And I didn't...
You didn't even know it had collapsed?
Well, I felt it, a big thing, but I thought it was just a big jolt. And then I didn't realize, because I thought that the building would be able to withstand all that stuff. And I don't know, I looked up, my friend looked out the window, and she saw that we were on the floor, and so we got out.
So this is all your stuff now that they've brought out. Were you injured at all? You seem okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Do you know the people who lived underneath you?
No. We didn't live there was nobody underneath us, because the entranceway is right here.
Right there. So directly underneath you, there was nobody there.
Nobody there. But then, see, the building moved to the right a little bit, like 6 or 7 feet, and maybe underneath here, maybe there was somebody here, because this is the entranceway right here. And there was nothing underneath us.
Do you have any idea how many units were in this complex?
A lot. I don't know.
It looks large, yeah.
It's very big.
Yeah. Now, it also seems that there was a parking...
It's a man, and they're moving it in now to get that person out. We also have some police rescue folks here who are assisting the firefighters. Needless to say, the scene is slightly chaotic. Again, 5 people confirmed dead, including a 14-year-old boy. His mother was standing. Captain, can we talk to you 1 second? The Battalion Chief DeFeo. Okay, we have 5 confirmed dead.
5 confirmed at this time, yes.
Now, Chief, who's alive in here?
Well,
how many?
There is one person alive that we know of right now in that particular unit right there. That actually was the first floor of the building. Right. So we had that catastrophic collapse that dropped the building on approximately 40 livable units.
Has he been able to talk to you at all? What's he said?
To him right now, and I don't know exactly what they're saying. They're in the process of rescue.
Now, there also was another rescue going on in the back of the building. What's the status with that?
We're taking people out of that also. That's probably another 20 minutes before we get that person out. Again, we did have a catastrophic collapse. There's a lot of debris. We have to cut through it. We have to pound through it, but we're doing the best we can with the resources we have on scene.
Now, would you expect you're going to find a lot more people? Do you have any idea how many people still may be trapped?
We don't know how many people are here. We've talked to the manager. We can't get to the records of exactly how many people were in the building. And again, there was a major evacuation conducted when we came on scene at first, and that was the 2nd and 3rd floors. We got most of those out. So they're all out as far as we're concerned, but now it's the ones in the collapsed units.
Do you have any idea of how much space they have between them and the 2nd floor?
Varies probably between 1 feet to 5 feet. So there'll be a lot of void spaces inside, and it's typical of it. Not only collapsed down, but it went forward like this, so it actually dropped lower than you normally expect in a pancake. Okay, thank you.
Chief is being called back. The rescue effort is going on in this apartment. Again, it was the 1st floor apartment. And now we're showing some tape. We'll go over and take a look at it here on the monitor. We'll show you what we have. Stay on that, Chief. This is a rescue attempt in the back of the building. This is the first one we went on this morning. This is in the rear of the building. A man was trapped in his 1st floor apartment. That's the 2nd floor kitchen there that the firefighters are working on. There's, as the Battalion Chief DeFeo said, and there we just lost our video, there is...
kind of symbolic of what we've all been through this morning. Some much worse than
holding
others,
on to what is truly dear.
And
well,
we're looking back there at that apartment house that collapsed. Perhaps 70 units just smashed. 2 floors coming down on top of them that Linda Moore was telling us about.
And then that home in the hills above Studio City that collapsed, and then on either side both of the homes were fine, and then the heroics of one man by the name of Andy who was talking to his neighbor so that she wouldn't be frightened until the paramedics and rescuers could come and extricate her from the debris.
This obviously just a firestorm here in this mobile home park. You see the burned out cars there. Nothing left, just cinders left of trees.
And people miraculously escaping this.
Heard on the Santa Susana Fault. They're calling it the Santa Susana Fault, just west of San Fernando. They say it was just south of the epicenter of the 1971 San Fernando quake, which had a magnitude of 6.5. They are calling the one today a 6.6. He says that the Santa Susana is what they're calling a thrust fault, in which two plates are converging and crunching up on one another. You have been watching pictures, of course, of the freeways there that have crumbled. We want to go back to KABC at this time for their live coverage, and then as soon as we can, we will throw it to President Clinton in Washington. Yes.
You too?
Yeah.
Okay, some of the ladies who lived in that first floor apartment, fortunate to be out of there alive or without injury. One lady. All right, we're told that they almost have this person out. We'll stay with this for a few more minutes here. We're told that this person. All right, I'm told that they had his legs out. We're going to get up here and see what if we can get a better vantage point. This person is alive. There were 5 people who were killed. All right, now they're going to get some airbags in here to lift up the debris off the person. I can see his feet, yes. I can see his feet. And he is talking to the firefighters. And they're calling in for more airbags to lift up this debris and provide a little space to get this individual out, this man out. We don't know how old he is or his name, obviously, but we do know he is alive, and that definitely is good news. There is at least one other person the fire department is working on right now to free. That person's trapped in an apartment to the rear of this building. And we're going to move over here a little bit to the left. What will the airbag do now? Maybe you could tell us about that.
What they're trying to do is attempt to lift up the building off of the patient. As soon as they do that, right now what they're trying to do, I think, is try to pull the bed apart that he's laying on so they can lower him down and pull him out.
What will be the first thing the paramedics will do then?
First thing that we're going to do is try to stabilize our patient and also try to get some lines into him, try to establish what's wrong with him, do a head-to-toe on him, figure out what his injuries are. Then what somebody will do is find out what hospital we're going to, and we'll be transporting him to that hospital.
Okay, we have any idea? Do you have any idea how old this person might be? Or
not right now at this time.
Okay, that's one of the paramedics. Paramedic crews for the Los Angeles City Fire Department. They're waiting for this individual, this man, to be freed. They're trying to lift the building up, as you heard him say, the airbags and jacks. They've got some jacks in there now. They're trying to lift this building up, give them enough space to bring the man out. Chief, anything new on this fella?
No, they're still trying to work on him. He's really packed in there, and we're using what we call our air rescue bags right now to try and raise the side of the building.
And what kind of a process is that going to
be? Well, you can see what it's taking right now. It's personnel, and it eats up a lot of resources at a scene like this here, but we do have this one, and we are finding reports of more traffic in the building. We're trying to get more resources on the scene. As we're recalling, we're getting more people here.
Now, you say you're hearing more reports of people trapped. Any idea how many?
Again, we probably got another 3 or 4, and I know they're extracting them back here now, so we have quite a few crews working.
Bob DeFeo, Battalion Chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department. Now they're bringing in a saw, which they'll attempt to cut this beam with. And then you can see that the firefighters, you can see the man's feet, the victim's feet. They're trying to get that building up off of him. As you heard Chief DeFeo say, 2, 3 other people being rescued at this time. The fire department is bringing in additional personnel to deal with that. As you can see here, it takes quite a few firefighters to free a single individual. There is a lot of work to do. It's very precise work. They don't want this building to slip and fall any more on this man than it is already. Again, the airbags we brought in and the jacks, and they'll get him up. So I think at this point, we've got a ways. All right, I got to pull some cable here. Okay, all right, we're going to back out of here. Okay, it's going to be a while before they get those airbags in here and they free this individual, but we'll come back as soon as they get close to that. Again, 5 people are confirmed dead here in this apartment complex. A 3-story building collapsing on itself. There are now 2 stories. The second story is sitting on top of the first. It is a terrible, terrible scene. Again, 5 people confirmed dead. I'm Joe McMahon reporting live from Northridge. Back to you in Hollywood.
Joe, thank you very much. We are watching probably the most intense scene in the Los Angeles area this morning. We have fatalities confirmed in other places, but there at 9500 Reseda, it is the most intense. Harold Green has just joined me here in the studio, and things were shaking pretty well at your house this morning, Harold.
Yes, I lived through the Sylmar earthquake, February 9th, 1971, 5:59 in the morning, and this one obviously very much stronger, but the scenes are similar. Once again, out in the Sylmar area, Tricia Tagasuki is at Cal State Northridge. We'll get to her in just a second, but we are looking at a similar damage pattern that erupted in 1971. Same thing we had happen this morning at 4:30. But this is the largest earthquake in the history of Los Angeles, 6.6 in the Los Angeles basis. In the city limits, the largest one. Driving in, the freeways, for the most part, are clear. A lot of people remain outside of their homes right now, out talking, checking on one another. Not a bad idea. On a personal note, I went across the street. I live over near the North Hollywood area, knocked on a neighbor's door repeatedly, did not get a response. Started to leave, banged on the door one more time, heard the woman call out, kicked open her door, went inside, and everything had fallen on her. She had chosen to sleep on the couch last night. It's never too late to check around your home, check with a neighbor. If you don't see the neighbors, give a knock on the door, and you will perform a public service, because after all, that's what we're trying to do right here, is perform a public service and share this kind of information with you.
She was okay, your neighbor?
She was okay.
She took you out from under the stuff?
We got her up and okay, and she is a thankful person. But she was alone, and she had been there for over an hour by herself, and was pretty near panic when I finally got in there. So keep that in mind. And now, Tricia Tagasuki.
We're going out to Tricia. We've already seen some incredible damage at Cal State Northridge. Bring us up to date now, Tricia.
Harold and Anna, we're on the other end of the campus right now, and there have been several buildings here on the CSUN campus that has sustained damage. If you can look behind me, that is one of the science buildings there. Just a few minutes ago, it was up in flames. They have several hazmat teams out here because there are, as you can imagine, a number of chemicals in that building, and right now in the air you can smell some of the chemicals that are burning. They were able to put that fire out. I think we have some tape where we can show you where those flames were burning. As I said, there are a number of different buildings here on campus that have... Earlier we showed you that parking structure, that four-story parking structure that had literally just crumbled. This particular building here, firefighters were quick to arrive on the scene. There were some explosions going on here because of all the chemicals inside. They are checking floor by floor right now. Most recently, we have not heard any more of that popping, any more of the explosions going on in that building. They seem to have it under control, but they are checking also the adjacent buildings. It appears that the building that was on fire there on the top happens to be one of the older buildings. Right next door, you can see some of the newer facilities that don't appear to have been damaged at all, although firefighters are going through each and every one of the buildings and checking. And there's also some other buildings just real close by that are still under construction. Also, those do not appear to have sustained much damage. It appears that, if anything, some of the older buildings, as we were driving around the campus, we could see some damage, and a lot of the...
There you are, Andrew, in the second row there. And Bob Nash, Undersecretary at USDA. Senator Bill Bradley of New Jersey, and Senator Joe Lieberman of Connecticut, Senator Don Riegel of Michigan, Representative Paul Ken Jaworski of Pennsylvania, Representative Floyd Flake of New York, Representative...
We're going to go ahead and monitor that, Carla. I think they have turned down the volume on the Vice President, and we believe our microphones are back on. We're going to monitor the situation in Washington. When the President begins speaking about Southern California, we'll go immediately back to him live.
Now, we want to give you a more thorough location right now. This is in Reseda, and we are watching a vehicle fire, and apparently it does look like it is a result of one of those ruptured oil lines or gas lines that we have been referring to all morning long. This is another good reason not to drive on any of the streets. Again, today is a holiday for most people. You can stay home. Obviously, if you have a problem in your home where it is not habitable, you can call the American Red Cross, but stay off the roads right now because they're trying to deal with emergencies such as this that we're seeing live in Reseda.
We've seen so far reports of a total of 50 different fires burning around Southern California, most of them centered in the northern part of the San Fernando Valley, that portion where this morning's earthquake was epicentered, most of them apparently a result of ruptured gas and oil lines. And this apparently just one example, because we're seeing the wall of flames progressing away from that vehicle. It doesn't look like this started out to be an accident. It looks like it started to be some sort of ruptured line hence the flames that have moved away from the scene and the flames that are coming up from underground. But imagine this, repeated 50 times.
Northridge, yeah.
And it's happening in Northridge, and it's happening in Sylmar. Sylmar also the area where we saw that derailed train. And this picture from Studio City this morning, where a man's home, his house of 30 years, was destroyed.
I mean, it's unbelievable to see this, you know, that car just teetering over what was once his home. Let's see if Vicki Vargas is there. Vicki? Apparently she's not, but earlier she explained how, you know, this house just crumbled from its foundation.
And this in Studio.
Back in the News Center, Mark Jones and Mark Mullen recapping the 6.6 quake that hit Southern California this morning, the Southland quake. And we're going to go back to Soledad O'Brien now with a USGS report from Menlo Park.
That's right. I'm with David Oppenheimer. He's with the USGS. He's a seismologist. First, we want to clear up any fears about this earthquake that was felt in the East Bay and reported also in Napa. That happened around 6:45 this morning. David, what can you tell us about that quake?
The earthquake occurred on the Green Valley Fault, sort of midway between Clear Lake and Lake Berryessa. As far as we understand, it's completely unrelated to any seismicity in Southern California.
So there's no relation whatsoever. Let's talk about Southern California. You seem surprised a little bit. I know you're not an engineer, but you seem surprised by the damage, the extent of the damage of the pictures we've been seeing. Why is that?
Well, this earthquake occurred so close to the San Fernando earthquake in 1971 that obviously there were some lessons learned from that earthquake, and they've rebuilt, and it points out that we still have some ways to go in terms of our engineering. I don't know the specifics of why these freeways collapsed, but it's disconcerting to see that they're still not withstanding similar-sized earthquakes built after 1971.
People living near L.A., outside of L.A., they can expect to feel aftershocks all day. Is that correct?
They can expect to feel aftershocks for weeks. There's a 34% probability that this earthquake could be followed by an earthquake of about 5.5 and greater. And we've had probably about 30 earthquakes greater than magnitude 3.5 already, and magnitude 4.7 I think was the largest one that I've seen. So people are going to be feeling aftershocks for several weeks.
Okay, thanks very much, David. Okay, we're going to follow that from here. Back to you, Mark.
Okay, thanks very much. Ever since 4:31 this morning when this earthquake hit, we have been throwing a lot of information and a lot of pictures your way. So what we do is try and give you some perspective, update you every 15 minutes and sort of give you sort of a broad overview just so you can keep everything in mind as you follow this story along with us. In total right now there are 5 confirmed deaths, including 1 Los Angeles police officer. Also, a major fire broke out at the Cal State University Northridge campus. That worried a lot of people because apparently that houses radioactive material, and therefore the entire area has been evacuated.
At least 8 aftershocks measuring 4.0 or stronger have hit, as many as 30, as a matter of fact. You just heard somebody say. Quick experts say strong aftershocks will continue for at least the next 72 hours. And the Los Angeles Police headquarters has been evacuated because of flooding. Several freeways are shut down, including Highway 14, the main route leading to the Southland, and also the Santa Monica Freeway and Highway 118, all with major structural damage. At least one of those was retrofitted after the 1971 earthquake, but it still went down this morning.
3 major freeway collapses to talk about. It is almost impossible to try and determine how many fires have broken out in greater Los Angeles. Authorities right now are reporting at least 50 fires, but basically it's a crapshoot right now because we just don't know. And just to give you sort of an idea as you look at this picture from KNBC television, it is so difficult with so many fires breaking out all over. Firefighters can't be everywhere. So we are seeing many situations such as this one that you're watching right now on television.
That's a taped picture there, but there are fires literally. I don't know how they can say 50 fires. We've seen what appears to be hundreds, including fires where people were going to work this morning, grocery stores, shopping center damage, homes, entire homes that have gone off hills, buildings, apartment buildings that have collapsed, 4-story buildings that have gone down. This is a live picture from an area. It looks like that may be an apartment complex.
There's all kinds of unconfirmed reports of deaths this morning. At one point we heard there were 50 deaths. We just heard another report that possibly there are 10 deaths additionally relating to a train accident, but we have no way to confirm that at this time. What we do know about a train is that authorities in Southern California are reporting that a Southern Pacific Railroad car, a 64-car train carrying hazardous material derailed. We We saw pictures of that earlier, but at least the good news in that is there were no immediate reports of leaks or injuries.
So at this point, again, it's 5 confirmed deaths. Of course, we expect that to go higher later in the day.
One other area of concern is around the town of Fillmore, which was evacuated earlier. It's a little small town, but known to people in the Southland because there was a dam there. And upon initial survey, they thought that there may have been some stress on the dam, so just as a precaution, the entire town of Fillmore, that little town and the adjoining area, was evacuated as engineers move in to try and examine the damage.
We mentioned, as you said, 5 deaths, hundreds of injuries, perhaps major structure damage to the highways in Southern California. There's some power outages, too, along the West Coast because of this. Both Portland and Seattle, Washington, lost power. What was it, 10,000 people?
10,000 people in Portland, Oregon, and as many as 30,000 people in Seattle before power officials there were able to reroute and restore power, probably within about 30 minutes of Seattle, but it just shows you at the magnitude of this. This power was either originated or was routed through Los Angeles.
55,000 homes in Culver City are without telephone service at this point, and by the way, Pac Bell is saying, please do not try to call your friends and relatives in Southern California. If you do, you'll probably get a message saying that the lines are busy. But at this point, they're saying leave the lines free for officials in Southern California. They need them to get to the hospitals and to... we're going to go now live to Washington, D.C. The president may be talking about the quake this morning along with the economic recovery package.
For reminding us all that we can make a difference in people's lives and that there are a lot of good people out there who are dying to make more of their lives if given the opportunity. It's so easy for us here to come here and talk in government language about government programs that never seem to reach to the human level and to the reality of what is actually at stake among the young people of this country. And he did that better than I think that I will be able to in following up. But for all of you who are here to talk about this today, if there was ever an argument for why we needed to find ways to give people and communities the capacity to develop themselves, I think Arlen Smith made a better argument than any of the rest of us ever could. I thought when he said, I couldn't believe I was here in Washington, I used to be a knucklehead. I thought he was going to say there were a lot of knuckleheads here, but he was delicate enough not to say that. First, let me, if I might, comment on the earthquake that struck Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley very early this morning. I have spoken with Governor Wilson and with Mayor Reardon by phone. I've assured them that we intend to do everything we possibly can to help the people of Los Angeles and Southern California deal with the earthquake and its aftermath. I've also spoken with James Lee Witt, the director of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. He is probably, as we meet here, on his way to California. Secretary Cisneros, I know, is going out later today. We may have other representatives of the government there. We have done everything we can, both to provide the resources and the backup we need. I believe that later today it will be possible for us to issue the appropriate federal declaration for California. We're going to go out there anyway, and our people will be doing the necessary work to try to do that. FEMA has had a lot of challenges this year, what with the 500-year flood in the Middle West and the fires in Southern California, but the good news is I think they're well organized and ready to deal with this, and I have been very impressed with the work that's already been done since the early morning hours in Southern California. We do know that at least 3 people have lost their lives, that many people have lost their homes, that there's been a severe disruption of life there. There are at least 3 major freeways that are seriously damaged, and if you've seen that, been watching it on television, you know that. So I ask the American people to remember the people of Los Angeles County in their thoughts and prayers today. It's going to be a very difficult few weeks for them as they try to come through the immediate dangers, and there are still some immediate dangers there, and then the aftermath. On this Martin Luther King Day, we honor our nation's most challenging and eloquent voice for human rights and human potential, a person who gave his life to guarantee better opportunities for people like Arlen Smith.
President Clinton speaking live from the White House, indicating that a declaration of emergency on a national level may be signed as early as this afternoon, Washington time.
As you can imagine, major problems at LAX this morning, and Laura Anthony is standing by with a reaction here in San Francisco. I bet it's a mess out there, too.
That's right, Mark. There are some problems associated with this quake here at SFO. Nothing terribly major, though. I'll get to those in just a moment, though. With me right now is Rich Verdon. He is a Southern California resident from Mission Viejo. He just flew in this morning, and he was, of course, awakened with a jolt this morning. Rich, tell me, how did it feel?
Well, to be honest, it wasn't as bad as a Landers quake last year, but it definitely shook. Started off softly, it got stronger, lasted about, I don't know, 30, 45 seconds, and then it subsided. But the strange thing was, unlike others, after this one ended, it was only moments before the aftershock started, and they kept going on for moments and moments, and we lost a lot of dishes, plates, you know, coming off some of the furniture, and the cat was scared. But other than that, we just got in the doorway and then waited it through.
Now, we've heard reports that this was a long quake, a relatively long quake, and that it felt perhaps stronger than the magnitude indicated. What was your reaction?
There wasn't a big jolt, an initial shock, but the actual duration that the long rolling lasted was quite a long time.
Lots of problems on the freeways and things down there this morning. Now, you had to get in the car and go to the Orange County airport. Did you encounter any problems?
On the way to the airport, yeah, a lot of traffic. Caltrans is at a lot of off ramps, checking the structure and what have you. Almost missed the flight, but I understand that several of the airports down in the area are closed, and there's some major damage to the overpasses near LAX.
All right, Rich Verdon, thanks for joining us this morning. We hope your trip up here is a little bit quieter.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are some problems down there, as Rich said. LAX, from what we understand, is about half closed at this hour, although they are getting flights in and out. We understand that the Burbank Airport reclosed at about 8 o'clock this morning, and that it is expected to reopen at 11 a.m. Now, Burbank is probably the closest airport to Northridge in the area where the quake was centered. Other airports down there that we know of, Ontario, Orange County, and Long Beach, as far as we know, flights going in and out, perhaps with some delays, though. Mark?
Laura, thanks very much. Of course, if you're expecting anybody from Los Angeles, or if you're planning to go down, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the time, the number of times that we will say that one particular airport may have reopened, as Mark just said, please call. Do yourself a favor, because
they're looking at major delays, even if the airports do open later in the afternoon.
Right, not only along the West Coast, but Los Angeles being one of the major hubs of the entire country, this has disrupted traffic nationwide.
So let's go back to KNBC now and live coverage of the Southland quake.
Officials to find out what the damage is there. You know that the Northridge area, Chatsworth, you know, is neighboring to, you know, Simi Valley and Ventura County. So we're going to be checking in with them to see what the extent of damage is in that area west of the epicenter.
Right now, we want to go back to Earthquake Central, the seismology lab at Caltech, if we can, for a moment. Conan Nolan, we are told, standing by to bring us the latest from the seismology lab there. And Conan, this is not just a Caltech facility, this is also the U.S. Geological Survey, and so this is all hands working at the office where you are right now.
Here, maybe we can connect them and make 7 out of 2.
And you're looking at it, but Conan is apparently off gathering information, and so we were told that he might have the latest for us. Apparently he's not prepared to bring it to us, so we apologize for that. You know, ladies and gentlemen, as you watch this morning, you are seeing some flying by the seat of the pants. Southern California and also television stations like Channel 4 try to prepare as best we can for such an event, but still it is not going to be seamless. We beg your indulgence.
Right now, let's go to Diane Diaz, who has been taking a close look at some of the people that are wounded. She's at Granada Hills Community Hospital with more on the injuries there. Diane?
Right in the heart of where the earthquake struck the hardest, Carla, in the San Fernando Valley. Granada Hills Community Hospital completely swamped right now with people who are trying to get emergency care. They continue to arrive in paramedic units, and they are having to wait quite a while for their help here. One of the ladies here, if we can talk to you, Elaine?
Right.
Tell us your story. What happened to you?
As I was getting out of bed, either I went into the little TV, or the TV fell down and I have a deep gash in my leg.
We're seeing it here that it's been already wrapped up. Have you been treated as yet?
No, this I did at home. There's a big knot and a deep gash.
What have the hospital officials here told you? You've been here a while?
Yes. What time is it now?
It's 9:25.
I've been here about 2 hours, and just wait our turn.
How about you, ma'am? What was your story?
I've got a cut on my leg. Everything fell down in my whole house. The bookcases, I think a TV fell on top of me. I don't know. Bookcases fell down, and we were just lucky to get out. We weren't killed because
You were from the Northridge area.
Granada Hills.
Granada
We
Hills.
live in the same complex, and it struck pretty bad. Everything came out.
We are getting widespread reports that apartment buildings and houses have been completely destroyed throughout this area. What was your experience in your unit?
The first time I switched pain relief...
Definitely see it from here.